After the chaos at the 7th Ceiling Shrine, where Jiro and Reiji encountered the newly introduced Mononoke named Koga, the members of the Black Torch squad were forced to face the reality that they were still far from ready. At the same time, Jiro was left bothered by Koga's words, especially when he seemed to know something about his father. With the help of Fuyo, another Mononoke, their next training pushed them beyond simple combat, dragging out painful memories, hidden regrets, and pieces of their past. The previous chapter ended with Rago and Jiro facing a huge monster. Unlike Ichika and Reiji, there are two of them inside the flower. Whose past did this monster come from? And what role will it play in uncovering the story moving forward? Let's find out. The monster they were fighting tried to claw at them, so Jiro jumped away. However, while he was still in the air, the monster punched him with its other hand. Because of that, he crashed hard into the water, which irritated him. He said that the monster they were fighting was both huge and fast, so he asked how that was fair, and he could not even land a hit on it. He also asked what that thing really was, so the monster asked if he wanted to know who it was. Jiro was shocked that the monster could speak, and it said that it would tell him who it was. Jiro and Rago were both extremely shocked to hear that, and it was as if the monster had transformed and was about to swallow the two of them, so they ran away. Meanwhile, in the outside world, Fuyo was confused because the color of her remaining flower had changed. Shiba asked what was wrong, and Fuyo answered that what was happening was impossible because she had lost control of Kyorin-jin, which shocked Usami. Shiba asked what had happened, and Fuyo said that she was not sure, but she was almost certain that it was because of Rago. However, that was still bad, so Ichika asked how that was the case. Fuyo explained that Kyorin-jin used the target's memories to create illusions for them to destroy, and now that she had lost the ability to control or dismiss it, the two of them had to escape on their own, or they would be trapped there forever. Back inside the flower where the two of them were, Jiro asked what he was seeing. Here, it was shown that they seemed to have been transported in front of a shrine. He told Rago not to tell him that they were inside the monster's stomach, and Rago pointed something out to him. A sealing stone was there, and Jiro seemed to know what it was, but before he could speak, Rago confirmed that it was the killing stone where he had been sealed. Jiro asked what it was doing there of all places. There was also a man outside the house, and he thanked someone for another good harvest that year. He also said that the whole village had even been able to pay the land rent. Jiro found that strange to hear, so he asked what era that was and when the man had gone there. The man added that aside from the good harvest, his mother had also been feeling much better, and he said that it was all thanks to the one he was speaking to, whom he called Master Rago. Because of that, Jiro and the real Rago were both completely shocked. The illusion Master Rago told the man to be quiet because he was trying to take a nap. However, he also seemed impressed that the man went there every day, so he mentioned that he was surprised the man had not gotten bored yet, and he called him Jirobe. Jirobe said that it had been a long time since Rago had shown himself to him, so he was even more grateful for that magnanimous blessing. Rago told Jirobe to stop worshipping him because it was annoying. Aside from that, he had not done anything. He said that Jirobe and the others only had good harvests because the weather had been perfect, and his mother's illness had not been serious. Jirobe insisted that Rago did not understand. He informed him that they heard word of other villages and how they got attacked. The culprits were demons and Mononoke that killed people and blighted their crops. However, not one of them had disturbed their village because Rago had been there to protect them. Rago said that he was not there to protect anyone because he simply liked that area, and the other Mononoke were afraid to approach him. For Jirobe, that was more than enough for them because Rago was there, which was why their village was safe and happy. He added that he was truly glad that their local deity was Rago, and he said goodbye so he could return to the fields. Before leaving, he left Rago a carrot and a fish as offerings, and he told him to eat them. Jirobe then said goodbye to Rago, but Rago told him not to come back. Jiro watched Jirobe leave, and it seemed like he already had a hunch about what was happening there. However, before he could finish, the monster confirmed that he was right and revealed that those were his memories. He also mentioned that this had been the time before he sealed himself inside the killing stone. Because of that, Jiro realized that it meant the monster they were fighting was actually Rago. The monster version of Rago then said that this had been the 15th year of the Kyoho era, and the 8th shogun Yashimane Tokugawa ruled Edo. The two were shocked to hear that, and the monster added that during that time, all kinds of mononoke, demons, beasts, and others had been known to humans. They had been worshipped like gods and feared as monsters. At that moment, someone who had not seen Rago for a long time arrived and said that he was glad to see him, calling him an old friend. The name of the one who had arrived was Amagi, and according to the monster Rago, he had been one of the few mononoke who spoke to him as an equal. From Jiro's understanding, he was a friend of Rago. When Amagi saw the killing stone, he said that Rago always chose the oddest locations to live in because killing stones were poisonous to them. At the same time, Rago was eating the fish that had been given to him, and he said that was exactly why he lived there. He said it kept the idiot small fry from bothering him all day, so Amagi understood. Jiro asked the real Rago what was wrong, because he still had not said anything. Rago said that he had heard Amagi's voice before, and he was shocked when he realized that it was the voice of the man on the tablet. He immediately called out to Jiro and told him that when he was taken from the stone, Amagi was the man he had seen inside the glowing plate, which shocked Jiro to hear. Back in the past, Rago asked why the god of one of the 3 holy mountains, Amagi, had come to a humble village like that. Amagi answered that in recent years, the number of people killing mononoke had been increasing. Rago asked what of it. He pointed out that small fry that get heads die, then asked what made that unusual. Magi answered that this was not what he meant, and explained that the humans' hunts were intelligent and organized, which Rago found strange. Amagi added that the humans were being supported by the government, the Bakufu. Given how ignorant Rago was about the outside world, he doubted that he knew anything about it. In recent years, the Bakufu had been quietly gathering skilled ronin and ninja and secretly training them to become an anti-mononoke force. That group was called the Oniie-Chan. Under the excuse of bringing order to the land, that group went around killing any mononoke they found. Many mononoke that Amagi knew had already been killed by the Oniie-Chan. He had even heard that there were fools who had allowed themselves to be tamed by humans. He said that it was sad and disgraceful because a true mononoke should never do that. For Rago, it was nonsense if he was asked, and he asked if Amagi had only gone there to warn him. He answered that of course he had not, and suddenly, countless hooded mononoke appeared. Amagi invited Rago to come with him because he wanted him to join their war against the Oniie-Chan. They would do whatever they wanted as mononoke, such as flooding rivers, burning mountain forests, and eating humans. As a result, they would be feared and worshipped, which was how it should be. However, humans were trying to upset that natural order, and he would not allow that to happen. That was the reason he had traveled and gathered like-minded mononoke, so Rago should join them. However, Rago refused, which seemed to surprise Amagi. Rago said that Amagi could do whatever he wanted because he did not care, but he was not interested in joining anyone's cause. Because of that, Amagi should not come to him and beg for help. One of the hooded mononoke said that Rago was a fool because did he not understand that what was happening had become a problem for all mononoke? Rago answered that he did not care and asked so what if the Oniie-Chan had become a problem? He could take care of himself. Because of that, one of the mononoke thought that he wanted to side with the humans, but Amagi silenced him, saying that he understood Rago's reasoning, but he was serious about what he wanted. After saying that, Amagi left, and he made Rago choose whether to join the humans or kill them, but he told him to know that a mononoke as powerful as him would not be left alone. Amagi even added that he would return the next day, and he would hear Rago's final answer, but Rago told him not to bother. According to the monster Rago, who had been telling the story, Amagi and the others had been right. Back then, he truly had not understood what they were saying. He had underestimated the Oniie-Chan, but more than that, he had no idea how willing Amagi was to get what he wanted. The next day, Amagi returned just as he had said, and he mentioned that to Rago as his reason for coming back. He admitted that the place was beautiful because the land was fertile and the air and water were pure and clear. He even added that the food was delicious too, while lifting Jirobe's severed head, which shocked Jiro and the real Rago, leaving both of them stunned. Amagi even said that he needed to fortify himself for the coming war, so while he traveled to recruit others, he made sure to enjoy the local cuisine. He even apologized to Rago because Jirobei's severed head was all that was left for him. Because of that, Rago transformed into a monster to attack Amagi in anger, which Amagi seemed pleased to see. Rago seemed to charge up an energy ball in his mouth, aiming it directly at Amagi, so Amagi prepared to counter. Rago's attack only grew stronger and stronger, and when his attack was fully charged, it destroyed a large part of the mountain. Even the building near them did not survive, and Jiro was almost blown away too, even though everything was only an illusion. When the smoke cleared, Amagi could be seen with a huge portion of his body cut off, and he said that he had expected nothing less from the Black Star of Doom. He also confirmed that it had been the right decision to take Rago onto their team because of how powerful he was. He added that the only things that survived that blast were himself and the power-suppressing killing stone. All the villagers had been eaten by his allies, and Rago had destroyed all of them along with the village. There was nothing left to prove that he had been the one who caused it, so the humans would believe that Rago was responsible for everything. Because of that, they would no longer agree to side with Rago. He even asked who could blame them, because in a way, Rago had destroyed the innocent village. Rago believed what Amagi said, that he had destroyed the humans, because he had been there. At the same time, Amagi offered once again for Rago to join him, and asked if he would kill him and fight against both humans and Mononoke. The other choice was for Rago to go with him and destroy the Oniichan, so he told him to choose. He even forced Rago to choose between the two, asking if the decision was really that difficult. He then mentioned that with a destruction that large, it was certain that the Oniichan would arrive before long. At that moment, Rago remembered Jirobei's words, that because he was there, the village was safe. Amagi said that no matter what Rago chose, he could not avoid fighting, and if a fight was inevitable, would it not be better to do it alongside friends? However, Rago could not get the words Jirobei had said to him the day before out of his mind, and he said that the situation was just a bloody pain in his tail. He said that it irritated him that everyone, whether humans or Mononoke, thought they could tell him what to do, and while saying that, he approached the sealing stone, so Amagi asked what he was doing. Rago answered that he would not join anyone's cause, and Amagi tried to stop him, but he emphasized that he could take care of himself. There, he finally said goodbye to Amagi. The monster Rago explained that this was how he fused with the stone, by voluntarily sealing himself inside it. His choice not to side with anyone had been his way of taking responsibility for what happened, and that was when the real Rago remembered that being sealed had been his own choice. However, Jiro did not believe that Rago had wanted to take responsibility, because he thought Rago had only wanted to look cool while avoiding the whole issue, which shocked Rago to hear. He was surprised that Jiro was there, and Jiro said that of course he was there and asked if he was blind. Rago then apologized, and Jiro told him not to panic. He also said that he could not say anything about the old Rago, but he was no longer alone now, and that was a choice he had made. He said that Rago had made it that way on the day they met, when Rago saved him. He even asked Rago if he had thought about being human or Mononoke when he saved him, which made Rago reflect on his life since meeting Jiro. He smiled when he heard that, and said that he had done many stupid things, but that had been the worst one, which confused Jiro. Rago said that everything had suddenly started to look stupid, so Jiro asked what all of that was about. Rago told him to think carefully, because he had stood firm on not getting involved in that mess by being alone. But in the end, he had fused with a brat like Jiro, who smiled at that. However, the enraged monster illusion of Rago said that he would not accept that, and it tried to punch Jiro and the real Rago. While they were in the air after jumping away, Jiro said that he had almost forgotten that they needed to find a solution to the monster Rago, or else they would not be able to get out of there. The monster insisted that he was alone and did not side with anyone. If Jiro disappeared, he could return to his solitude, and if Jiro died, he could return to his slumber. Because of that, Jiro asked if that was really called for, but Rago answered that Jiro should not blame him because he was not the one who said it. He added that, just so Jiro knew, he had no intention of dying together with him. Outside the flower, Fuyo was trying to open her last flower, but she could not even open it a little, which embarrassed her. At that moment, Shiba noticed something, because the flower started to have cracks, and he said that it was bad, so they should step back immediately. Someone wondered what was going on, while the cracks in the flower grew larger, until it was finally shattered by a giant hand. They all saw what happened, and Jiro and Rago also came out. The two of them looked completely exhausted, and Jiro said that he had thought they were done for because the illusion they fought had been so tough. Ichika worried about him, and it seemed that Jiro himself was not pleased that they were the last ones to get out. Shiba said that it was good that all of them had escaped, and it seemed like their training had been a success. He then asked if that was all it was, or if it had been an even bigger success. They would only know once Jiro told them what he saw. After Jiro told them what he had seen, Shiba mentioned that their training had been a huge success. He even said that it seemed Amagi held a high position among the enemy, if he was not the boss himself. According to Usami, they needed to make a report immediately, but Shiba stopped her, which made her wonder why. Shiba said that this wild card was a good one, and it would be a waste not to use it at the right moment. At the same time, it seemed that he was about to call Kasumi. In the next scene, it shifted somewhere else, where a man came out of his house to get the newspaper for that day. He saw something that confused him, and it was 8 severed heads in front of his house, so he was completely terrified when he realized what they were. After that, the scene shifted to the Black Torch headquarters, where it was reported that that morning, many civilians had been reported killed in a residential district. In every case, only the heads were discovered, and according to the coroner's report, they had not been cut off using any blade or sharp object. The area where the bodies were found had also been covered by an unseasonal fog since the previous night. No witnesses had come forward yet, and the official investigation seemed to be floundering. A woman even said that the frightening part was that this had not been the first gruesome murder reported that month, and that the police's official stance was that the crimes may have been committed by a serial killer. A man then said that, in truth, those murders had not been committed by a normal human, because only a savage beast could do something like that, or a monster. Fuyo agreed with the balding old man, and Reiji asked if it had been done by a Mononoke. Fuyo answered that it was almost certain, and Jiro asked why she was still there and if she thought she was part of their group. He insisted that Fuyo's job was already over, so he asked why she had not left yet. Because of that, Fuyo called Jiro a mouthy little brat, because she could hang around wherever she wanted, and he had no right to tell her what to do, which irritated him to hear. He said that he had almost died because of Fuyo's training or whatever that was, so she owed him an apology. Fuyo told him to shut up and said that he was not just a little brat, but he also has a little spine. She had already told him that she had nothing to do with that. Jiro then asked why Fuyo was eating his shrimp crackers, and the Mononoke answered that Jiro should stop complaining, because if he did not want them eaten, he should have claimed them as his own. Jiro argued that his name was already on the package. At that moment, Usami and Ichika arrived carrying food, which made Jiro and Fuyo happy. While they were eating, Jiro asked why Mononoke ate humans. Ichika wondered where that stupid question had come from, but Jiro was serious about it, because Fuyo could eat noodles without any problem, just like them, and she had even eaten his crackers, so Fuyo told him to forget about that. After that, she explained that nothing required them to eat humans. It all came down to a person's vital energy, because that energy was one way Mononoke could strengthen their overall power. Jiro immediately understood that, because he remembered that Amagi had said something about it, and Fuyo said that was right. According to Reiji, the killings that had been happening recently could be seen as Mononoke trying to strengthen themselves for something. Jiro did not react, while breaking news suddenly came in. The female reporter said that according to their sources, the authorities had officially blocked all roads leading to the Hirosaka city area. Somewhere else, someone asked what was happening. It was Kasumi, who said that Shiba would not call her just to show her an insignificant report. Shiba refused to accept that it was insignificant because Kasumi had been the one who told him to train the 3 of them. Kasumi told him to get to the point because, unlike him, her division was extremely busy because of the recent murders. If Shiba had pulled her away from her work for something of no consequence, she would use her influence to demote him into oblivion. Shiba was not frightened by that, and he told Kasumi about Amagi from Rago's memory, so Kasumi said that it was an interesting little tidbit. In exchange for that information, Shiba asked her to forget about the incident at the shrine, so Kasumi realized that had been his real purpose there. Aside from that, Shiba had another request, which was for Kasumi to let his kids handle the investigation into the murders. Kasumi did not agree, so Shiba pleaded with her. He said that they may have gotten the order reversed, but Reiji, Jiro, and Ichika now had both training and real mission experience. Aside from that, they had results. He also asked if Kasumi remembered that anything involving Mononoke should be under the division's jurisdiction. If she was only concerned about how young the kids were, then that meant she was just being protective of them. Shiba explained that if they looked at it logically, the three of them were useful tools. If they did not pan out, then Kasumi could demote him, fire him, or do whatever she wanted. At that moment, Tokieda called Kasumi, and she answered immediately and asked what was wrong. She seemed shocked by the news he brought, so she said that she would return right away. For now, she told Tokieda to have the police close off the entire area and to limit the mass media. She also ordered him to have the operations squad create a plausible cover story and to tell Mary to hurry with the information revision and control campaign. After that call, Shiba asked what had happened because Kasumi really seemed busy. If she wanted, his group could help. Back at Black Torch headquarters, they were still listening to the news about the ongoing killings. A reporter was reporting from just outside the scene at the edge of Hirosaka City, and according to him, the far side of the bridge was completely obscured by a bank of fog, and they could not see anything inside the city. The police were treating it as a possible biological terrorist attack and had sealed off the entire area as a highly dangerous hazard zone, so no one could enter or leave. However, it was believed that most of the thousands of people who worked or went to school in the Hirosaka area were still trapped inside that fog. Ichika asked if it was a barrier, while someone stood up. It was Jiro, and she asked where he was going. He said that Hirosaka was nearby. Was that not exactly the kind of thing they were supposed to fight? If they were not going there at that moment, then what was the point? Ichika tried to reason with him, while Shiba said that they could barely leave without orders and a mission. Usami said that she would call Shiba, and Jiro said that Shiba was a pain in the butt. He asked who cared about Shiba, whom he called a scruffy old guy, and said that they should just leave. However, he did not know that Shiba was already behind him, and Shiba jokingly told him not to say things like that because it hurt him and might even make him cry. Jiro was shocked and asked when Shiba had gotten there. A little later, the scene shifted to the area where the bridge and the fog were. There were men in suits doing their work to control the narrative about what was really happening, and not far from them, the Black Torch squad was there. Jiro asked if all the men there were on Mitsu, and Shiba answered that everyone wearing a suit was one. Jiro mentioned that it was weird that the Bureau of Espionage really existed, and Shiba said yes, because they were doing their job properly, which meant Jiro truly had not known about them. However, if they were being specific, the job of the men in suits was to fight human enemies. That made sense, because there had barely been any major Mononoke incidents for several decades. The Bureau of Espionage had evolved greatly from its Onawa Banshu roots, from fighting Mononoke to fighting foreign human governments, and from espionage to information control. Almost no one in the Bureau could handle a situation like that anymore. That was where their squad came in, which made Jiro wonder what he meant. After that, Shiba explained the situation. According to him, all of Hirosaka City had been affected, mostly centered around the river delta, so every road leading in and out had been closed. They had no data at all about what was inside the fog, but they were pretty sure that it had been caused by a Mononoke, which had trapped hundreds of people inside. Because of the density of the fog, they could enter the barrier using the energy neutralization function of their espionage gear. After that, Shiba gave Ichika, Jiro, and Reiji 3 objectives. First, they would rescue the victims. Second, they would dispel the barrier. And lastly, they would neutralize, or if possible, capture the enemy. Someone wondered about capturing the enemy, and Shiba added that he thought that, just like at the 7th Ceiling Shrine, someone was operating behind the scenes. He wanted to take every chance they had to get leads on Amagi. Because of that, he would be the one in charge of everything happening there, and only the 3 of them would enter the fog. He explained to them that human communication technology, whether wired or wireless, would not transmit inside the fog. That was why they had not heard anything on social media from the people inside. Because of that, Ichika asked how they would stay in contact with him. Fuyo said that this was where she came in. Jiro was not happy about that and asked what she was doing there. Fuyo once again called Jiro a little brat, while Reiji asked what she wanted them to do. Fuyo told them that she wanted them to swallow the petals she was handing them. She explained that each petal would function as a transmitter connected to the lotus she was holding, and since it used her energy, they did not need to speak as loudly as they did with their human gadgets. Jiro was confused that they had to eat the petal, and Ichika said that she was not sure she had the courage to do that, while Reiji smelled it. Because of that, Fuyo became annoyed with them and told them to just do it. After that, Shiba ended their briefing and said that he would gather backup for them, but for now, they should do what they needed to do. Because of that, the three began their operation and entered the mysterious fog. Somewhere else inside the fog, a Mononoke's horn twitched. It was the woman who sensed the arrival of the humans, the three members of Black Torch. The female Mononoke's companion was shocked by that, because there were fewer of them than expected. He said that if they had known how understaffed the bureau was, perhaps they would not have needed to group together like that. The one saying that was a male Mononoke who was extremely huge, and he was eating humans while leaving only the severed heads behind. He then called someone named Rorin and asked how the collection of their lunch was going. Rorin answered that he had already collected 50 humans, but it seemed like it would still take some time because it was harder to control and guide humans while they were still alive. He was the man wearing a gas mask and holding a black flag. He said that it was annoying, but the freshness of the humans was critical. After all, the part they needed, their vital energy, disappeared quickly once they died. He also told Kanawa, the giant Mononoke, not to leave the heads behind because it was poor manners. They needed to eat everything in front of them, but Kanawa snapped at him to shut up, saying the heads were all bone with no good meat on them, so he hated eating them. At that moment, they heard someone crying, so Kanawa wondered what it was. The one crying was a little girl, and Kanawa asked what was happening. He even told Rorin that one of them had escaped from his control. Rorin mentioned that his spell did not work very well on children, because their brains were not that developed yet. The child was looking for her mother, and Kanawa said that he was getting irritated by her crying, so he would just eat her. However, before he could do that, someone called out to him, and it was Naruko, who said that she was wrong. Naruko was the woman with them, and she said that she had not sensed three. There were 3 humans, but there was also someone with them, and Kanawa immediately knew that it was Rago. He became excited and crushed the head of the person he was holding, and he said that now he had a reason to go all out too. Rorin told him to go crazy, but just to make sure, he asked if Kanawa remembered their boss's orders. Kanawa answered that he had not forgotten that Rago had to be taken alive, and he asked Naruko which direction he was coming from, but she no longer answered. Rorin said that he thought Naruko had fallen asleep, which shocked Kanawa. Rorin added that he was not surprised anymore, because Naruko was holding up that barrier all by herself. That irritated Kanawa, and he said that they were all useless. According to Rorin, he did not want to hear that from someone who did nothing but eat. Kanawa asked what would happen if Rago went in Naruko's direction, and Rorin answered that he did not think that would be a problem, because they had made sure she had a bodyguard, so he was not worried about her. Kanawa was irritated to hear that, and he ordered Rorin to stay there and keep collecting humans. Rorin asked what Kanawa was going to do, so Kanawa snapped back, asking if he could not already guess. He said he was going out there to beat the crap out of Rago, causing Rorin to remind him that he had just said they were not supposed to kill him. Back with Jiro and the others, Reiji said that getting in had been easy, but it seemed like everything else they needed to do would be more difficult than expected. Ichika agreed, because they had seen several unconscious people on the street, but they could not get anything from them, even after Jiro shook them. Ichika added that she suspected they were under some sort of spell. According to Reiji, if that was the case, they needed to hurry, because Mononoke spells and energy could have a major effect on a person's sanity if they were exposed to them for too long. Because of that, Jiro said that they would hunt down whoever had cast that spell on the people. Jiro then said that was easier said than done because the whole city was inside the barrier. Because of that, it seemed like they needed to split up in 3 different directions. They had already started thinking about how to divide the area, while Rago came out and asked what was happening. He was even disgusted by the smell because there were so many Mononoke, and Jiro seemed surprised that he was awake. Ichika thought that they could use Rago as a Mononoke radar, which confused Rago and made him ask what that was. Even so, he still tried to sense the presence of Mononoke, and he sensed 4 of them. Ichika was shocked that there were that many, and Reiji asked if Rago could tell their locations. Rago answered that he could not, because the barrier and spell were blurring everything, so he could not tell where the enemy's exact locations were. Because of that, Jiro called him a useless fuzz bucket, which insulted him, so they started arguing. Reiji told them to stop because they were becoming a headache. Rago repeated that there were 4 Mononoke in total that he could feel. One was managing the barrier, one was casting a spell that was probably affecting the people, and 2 were far stronger than the first 2. Someone mentioned that knowing how many opponents they had was important, but splitting up and searching for them would not help them. At that moment, Jiro heard someone say that he and his companion were lucky that day. The one saying that was a bird, and he added that he did not know why, but it seemed like all the humans were asleep. Jiro watched them, while another bird said that they should eat their fill while the humans were not looking. One bird noticed Jiro looking at them and spoke to him. Ichika mentioned that she had heard about it from other people, but now that she was seeing Jiro talking to animals with her own eyes, it was kind of pastoral. Reiji asked if a two-sided conversation was really happening between Jiro and the birds. He simply did not know it, but there was, because one bird thanked Jiro since it had not eaten canned goods since the last time. Jiro said that it was no problem because he owed them for helping him. After the birds left, Jiro told Ichika and Reiji that according to them, there were 2 Mononoke at the northern intersection near a group of people, while the others were at the park in the center of the city. If they wanted to make it quick, the best move was to split into 2 groups. One would go to the intersection, and one would go to the park. Reiji immediately said that he and Ichika would handle the intersection, while Jiro would go to the park. Jiro said that he had known Reiji would say that, and that he did not care. Reiji added that after they beat down the 2 Mononoke at the intersection, they would return, and Jiro said that seemed fine to him, so they should go crush some Mononoke. However, before he could finish, Kanawa suddenly appeared behind them, which shocked them greatly. He was extremely huge compared to the 3 of them, and while he was thinking about what to say, Reiji and Ichika prepared to attack, which he noticed. When his gaze shifted to Jiro and Rago, he grinned with an extremely terrifying look in his eyes. Jiro told Ichika and Reiji that the plans had changed, and he ordered them to split up and handle the intersection and the park. He and Rago would deal with Kanawa. Ichika asked why they would not fight Kanawa together, but before she could finish, Jiro said that he's betting that he and Rago were the ones Kanawa was after. Aside from that, they needed to hurry and save the victims. Because of that, they should leave, and they nodded to Jiro as they followed his orders. After the 2 left, Kanawa laughed and said that he was surprised Jiro had chosen to face him one-on-one, asking if humans were not supposed to fight in packs. Jiro told him to shut up and called him bullhorns. Jiro added that he was not there to talk, so Kanawa should fight him. Somewhere else, where Rorin was, he noticed something. It was Ichika, who told him to stop casting his spell on the people, and it seemed that she had arrived at the right time. Rorin said that he would not listen, so Ichika told him to die. Meanwhile, where Naruko was, Reiji said that at first glance, the Mononoke on the pole did not seem hostile or conscious. Because of that, he mentioned that he was lucky, and he told the one guarding Naruko, who looked like Koga, to quietly lower his weapon and that he would arrest him. If he resisted, Reiji would just cut him down. Back at the central square where Jiro was, Kanawa asked if he was really challenging him. He said that it was a strange thing for a human to say, and he took off his jacket. He even added that it was as if Jiro thought he was stronger than him, while Jiro arrogantly asked if he wanted to find out. That was followed by Kanawa punching him, but Jiro jumped backward and avoided it. He had expected that from Kanawa, who really was a muscle-bound meathead type. Kanawa was extremely strong, so Jiro did not want to get hit by him, but his attacks were simple and straightforward. Jiro realized that if he dodged Kanawa's punches at the last second, Kanawa would be left wide open. Kanawa seemed impressed by how Jiro avoided his attacks. Jiro then sarcastically apologized to him, calling him bullhorns, before explaining that he had gotten used to fighting big, beefy guys. After that, he declared that he was not going to hold back anymore, and that he and Rago would finish it in one hit. After saying that, he called out to Rago, and they unleashed an extremely powerful blast directly at Kanawa. Kanawa was hit cleanly by it, and Jiro said that it would surely blow him away, while Kanawa tried his hardest to survive the attack. His feet were already digging into the ground, and it took all of his strength to defend against Jiro's attack. At that moment, Rago gave Jiro some bad news, saying that he could not crush Konoha, which shocked Jiro. He also saw that Konoha was enduring his and Rago's attack, and before long, Konoha managed to disperse the attack. Jiro could not believe that Konoha had managed to tank his attack, and it irritated him. Konoha then said that he had purposely given Jiro an opening, and asked if that was the best he could do. While transforming, he added that Jiro was not a true Mononoke, or even a true human. He was only a half-assed mishmash of the two, and he should have expected to be disappointed. Jiro was shocked to see Konoha's arms transform, and Konoha raised his right arm. When he brought his arm down, Jiro was shocked because it felt as if an invisible force had crushed him, and even the ground around him was destroyed because of it. Konoha said that he was not one of the fastest Mononoke, but he could wield his power like a sledgehammer, and he mockingly asked Jiro how he was holding up. He also asked if it hurt, and if he was having trouble breathing. He even questioned if Jiro was embarrassed to be crushed like a bug. He followed that by saying that this had been the life of the Mononoke for the past several centuries, because they had been oppressed and hunted by the Onmitsu. He even told Jiro that he had once been the god of a mountain forest, feared and revered as an ogre lord. The local villagers even held festivals in his honor and offered prayers and sacrifices to him. In return, he protected the entire area from war and natural disasters. He missed those days, and while increasing the pressure on Jiro, he also said that when the Oniichaphofficial appeared, the people did not just stop praying. They even worked together with them and made a plan to kill him. Because of that, he killed the humans, including the Onmitsu and the villagers. Men and women, children and elders, even infants, he ate them all. After telling Jiro all of that, he asked him if he could now see that humans had started that war. In the past, they smiled and happily offered prayers to him, and now they come rushing in droves, blades in every hand trying to kill him. Because of that, he called humans backstabbers and liars. The Mononoke had waited for several centuries, and eventually, humans had forgotten that they even existed, while their Oniichaphofficial had changed beyond recognition. At the same time, he lifted Jiro and said that the time had come for the Mononoke to live like they used to. Rago was supposed to be their final trump card, their sign to the humans that their reign was over, but if he had become that weak, then they no longer needed him. Jiro and Rago would simply become sacrifices that would pave the way for a new era. After saying that, he closed his hand and completely crushed Jiro. In the next scene, it shifted to where Ichika was, and Rorin was impressed that she had told him to die. He said that humans were always like that, extremely arrogant and bossy, as if they were kings of the world or something. In truth, they disgusted him so much that just looking at them made him want to vomit. He even asked why Ichika was so confident, because no matter how she looked at the situation, he was the superior one, and she was the inferior one. If Ichika wanted him to stop what he was doing, she should ask him properly. She should do what her ancestors used to do, kneel and bow down. He had no intention of listening, and there was nothing Ichika could do alone, but who knew? She could try, and maybe the situation would change, but before he could finish speaking, Ichika charged at him. She tried to slash Rorin, but to her shock, he suddenly disappeared from in front of her, only to see that he was already behind her as he praised how fast she moved. Rorin then waved his flag, and he attacked. He wrapped the flag around Ichika, and she even closed her eyes. When she opened them, she saw that the top of the Torii Gate was already above the clouds, which shocked her. She still could not speak, while Rorin asked what she thought of his illusion, and he said even VR could not compete with it. He also warned Ichika that if she fell, she would really die, because his spell did not just affect the eyes, but the entire nervous system. He added that he had shown all kinds of illusions to humans over the years, from destructively tempting ones to hellishly frightening ones, and everything in between. Because of that, humans had shown him all kinds of reactions in return, such as laughing, crying, and screaming, and in the end, they all break and became silent. He added that he thought it was fun and interesting to watch humans go through those emotions. Ichika told him to shut up, because humans were not toys. Rorin defended himself by saying that humans turned dogs and cats into toys, so what right did Ichika have to speak? After saying that, he spun his flagpole extremely fast. It took the shape of a spear, and he said that he thought he would play with Ichika more directly. That was because she was his toy, and he charged at her. Ichika managed to avoid Roran's thrusting attacks, while he laughed at her and told her to dance for him. Roran even said that Ichika was about to reach the end, and that she had nowhere left to go. Because of that, he asked if she wanted a hole in her gut, or if she would swan dive straight into hell. At the same time, he stabbed at Ichika again, but she dodged it and trapped his weapon under her armpit. He was shocked by that, and suddenly, he was sent flying. Ichika had thrown him, and she told him that he was the one who would swan dive straight into hell. However, Roran suddenly grew wings, which shocked Ichika greatly. Roran mockingly asked why she was so surprised. After all, that illusion belonged to him, so of course he would not fall. Ichika shouted that it was not fair and told Roran to come down and face her. If not, then he should give her wings too. Roran laughed at her and said that she really was bossy. He then added that he would give Ichika a gift. After that, her clothes changed into schoolgirl clothes, which completely shocked her, and she asked what that was. Roran laughed and said that he liked it, and that it looked good on Ichika. After all, whenever he had a doll, he just wanted to play dress up with it. He laughed at Ichika again after saying that, which made her even more irritated with him. Inside her mind, she told herself that she needed to calm down, because if she lost her cool, she would be playing right into Roran's hands. She also knew that it was only an illusion, and that she was still wearing her espionage gear, and she was even still holding her dagger. She mentioned that Roran looked down on her so much that he was only playing with her. That was a weakness she could exploit, and she would only get one chance. Roran then asked what he should make Ichika wear next. A maid outfit, or maybe a nurse uniform were the choices he gave. Ichika answered that she doesn't want both, which confused Roran. Ichika said that she had had enough of Roran's stupid little games, so she would no longer follow his rules, and he once again said that she really was bossy. Roran also said that Ichika truly did not understand that he was not giving her a choice. He would play with her until she died. He was about to add something else, but Ichika suddenly disappeared, which shocked him. She had used the stealth mode of her gear, and Roran only felt that someone had gotten onto his back. He noticed that it was heavy, and it was Ichika, who had disengaged from stealth mode. Roran was extremely shocked to see Ichika there, and he could not believe it. Ichika's face was full of anger at that moment, and she broke one of Roran's horns, which destroyed his illusion. When she landed on the ground, she said that a horn helped a Mononoke control his power. If Roran lost one, he would lose control of his spell. She added that he had only been playing around, but they were serious, so Roran should not underestimate humans. After that, the scene returned to Jiro's fight, and Kanawa seemed shocked because Jiro had used the Utsusumi technique, the method of shedding a cicada shell. He even mentioned that he remembered the old Oniwabanshu using that, and he called Jiro a nimble little monkey. However, he was still surprised that Jiro still had that much strength. He had not expected that after Jiro had bragged that he would give it his all, and he praised him for what he had done, calling it a clever trick. Jiro did not understand that, so he asked Rago what was happening. However, Rago did not understand what was happening either. He said that as soon as the vest came off, he felt as if he had been released, and since then, energy had been welling up inside him, making it difficult to control. Jiro wondered about the energy welling up inside Rago, and his eyes widened when he remembered what Shiba had said before that mission about the energy neutralization function. He asked if it was possible that the function did not only work on the ambient energy in the air, but also on Rago's energy inside him. He had almost always worn that vest aside from when he bathed and slept, so he had not noticed it. He was still saying something about the vest suddenly being removed in the middle of a fight, but he could not finish because Rago called out to him. Rago told him to dodge because Kanawa was about to punch him, but Jiro could not move. Rago cursed and said that they would just block it. Rago tried to block, but the result was Kanawa's defeat, with his body being sliced into 3 pieces. Using the last of his strength to speak, he called Jiro and Rago monsters, and after saying that, his sliced body collapsed. Jiro looked at Kanawa's corpse and asked Rago what had happened. He also wondered how strong Rago really was, while Rago said that he had only been trying to block Kanawa's swing. Jiro could not accept that, because the power Rago had shown was not merely the strength of a block. Even Rago was confused by the power he had displayed, and he asked himself why he had suddenly become stronger. He questioned whether there really had been something in that jacket. But even if there was, that did not explain everything. Removing the vest had only been a trigger. Once it was taken off, he felt as if something inside him had come loose. His eyes widened when he realized it, and he asked if it was possible that his power was growing stronger. After all, not only had all the energy he had lost, which had been slowly whittled away by the stone, returned, but it had also grown stronger. He could not accept that because it was impossible for it to have become that much stronger in just a few weeks. He then remembered what a Mononoke had told him about his power returning once he was full. At the same time, he also remembered what Fuyo had said about human vital energy being one way for Mononoke to increase their overall power. That was when he realized that the entire time he had been with Jiro, he had been eating Jiro's vital energy without even noticing it. After all, if a human and a Mononoke shared one body, of course something like that would happen even without them thinking about it. Because of that, he had eaten, or rather, was still eating Jiro's vital energy. At the same time, Jiro said that he was glad they had defeated Kanawa, but he was not sure he liked how they had defeated him, because it had left a bad taste in his mouth. He added that it looked like they needed to return to Shiba to report and find out what was happening with Reiji and Ichika. After saying that, he spat out the blood left in his mouth. He then wondered why Rago had suddenly gone quiet, and asked if he was bothered by the way they defeated Kanawa. After that, the scene shifted to where Naruko was, and Reiji was telling her bodyguard not to move. He ordered the guard to lower his weapon and surrender. If he refused, then Reiji would have no choice but to use force. He even said that he would only say it once, and that it was a warning. He then repeated what he had said, while the bodyguard removed the bandages wrapped around his sword. Reiji froze when he saw it, because he recognized the cursed bindings on the hilt and felt its sinister aura. He knew he was not mistaken, and he would never forget that sword. At the same time, the bodyguard charged at him, using Kirihara Ryu assassination arts, Shunjin Flash Strike, and Reiji immediately recognized his voice. The next scene shifted to Shiba, and Jiro was trying to speak to him through their communication device. Shiba answered that he could hear Jiro clearly, and he asked if he was okay. Jiro said that he was pretty much fine, which made Shiba wonder. He mentioned that Jiro sounded awfully wishy-washy with his answer, so Jiro apologized. He said that he had gotten carried away and killed one of the Mononoke. Shiba told Jiro not to worry. Fortunately, it seemed that Ichika had succeeded in capturing her enemy, which Jiro was not happy to hear because he could already hear her bragging about it. He then asked how Reiji was doing, and Shiba answered that he had not reported in yet. Jiro was shocked to hear that, and he said that he would go to Reiji's location to check what was happening. Shiba told him to be careful and not do anything rash. Backup was also on the way, so if the situation looked dangerous, they should leave, and Jiro answered that he understood. At the same time, Rago was still irritated that he had not noticed, because if he kept possessing Jiro like that, or worse, if he kept expanding his energy in battle, things would become extremely bad. However, before that thought could finish, Jiro called out to him, shouting at his ear, which startled him. Rago shouted back and asked why Jiro had done that, saying that his eardrums would be ruined. Jiro answered that it was the only way to get Rago's attention, calling him a dumb fuzzball, and he asked if Rago even had eardrums. He also said that they could not relax until he had a chance to scold Reiji for taking so long, so they should leave. After that, the scene returned to where Reiji was, with his vest already removed, while his enemy was impressed. His enemy said that Reiji had always been good at dodging things by a hair's breadth, but it seemed that he had improved since the last time they met. Reiji said that Flash Blade was a technique used to suddenly close in on an enemy, flowing into a smooth upward strike from their blind side. Dodging that move had become nothing more than muscle memory for him, and he could no longer remember how many times his enemy had hit him with that move. After all, that had been his signature move, and it turned out that the enemy was Shinji, who smiled at Reiji. He was surprised that Reiji was only calling him Shinji now, and he said that it made him sad. He even asked if Reiji would no longer call him his brother. Reiji answered that of course he would not, because the person he had called his brother had failed the ritual of swords and had allowed Hell Wind to devour him, so his brother had died. Shinji told Reiji not to run from the truth, because this was not an illusion. He had not been devoured by Yamakaze, and he certainly was not dead. From the past until that very moment, he still is, and always had been himself. If Reiji would not believe him, then he would make him believe it. Shinji charged at Reiji and attacked him with a downward slash, but Reiji blocked it. As they continued attacking each other, Reiji told himself that Shinji did not need to convince him, because he had known it from his very first attack. With every clash of their swords, the truth he could not escape only sank deeper. Then, with a surprise attack, Shinji suddenly hit him with a side kick, sending him flying far away, and Reiji gritted his teeth in frustration. He asked if Shinji was saying that he was still his brother. If that was true, then why was he on the side of the Mononoke? Shinji smiled when he heard that, and he answered that there was no reason. It just happened to be more convenient, because being with them made it easier for him to hide and fight the Bureau of Espionage. He then added that all of it was Reiji's fault, and he pointed his sword at him. Reiji wondered how that had become his fault, and Shinji said that he doubted Reiji remembered, because he had been so young back then, but that was where the seeds were planted. That was followed by the scene returning to the past, when the two of them were still children. They were training by fighting each other with their wooden swords. One of them managed to knock away the other's sword, resulting in that person's defeat. It was Reiji who said that he had done it, and had won against Shinji. Their father praised him because it seemed he had learned the new form properly, which shocked him to hear. While Reiji was overjoyed by their father's praise, Shinji was saddened. Their father called him, so he answered, "Yes, father." Suddenly, he was slapped by their father, who asked how many times he had lost to Reiji. He said that Shinji was always being beaten by his younger brother, so did he have no shame as the older one? Their father also asked how he could call himself the heir of the Kirihara clan. Shinji did not like hearing that, and he only tightened his grip on his sword. Back in the present, he told Reiji not to jump to conclusions. It was true that he had been annoyed that he could not beat him, and he had been afraid of being scolded by their father, which had been painful and sad for him. However, that was not the problem. He asked Reiji if he knew what had hurt him the most. It was the day after Reiji had started deliberately losing to him again and again. Reiji was shocked to hear that, and denied doing such a thing, but Shinji said that he was sure Reiji had not noticed it. If he had done it intentionally in an obvious way, their father would have noticed, but Shinji had fought Reiji every day. As time passed, his losing record against him disappeared, and he started winning more often, until the time came when he no longer lost to him. However, what frightened him was that, at some point, Reiji had started smiling whenever he lost. At first, he had thought that Reiji was only trying to be considerate to him. He tried to train so he could truly win with his own skill. He even trained until his hands were chapped and raw. He poured blood and sweat into improving, and he practiced the same forms thousands of times. However, despite all his effort, Reiji had always remained only one step behind him. That gap neither grew nor shrank, and whenever he turned around, Reiji was always there smiling, saying that he could not beat him. He even asked Reiji if he had any idea how that felt, because he had never been one step ahead of him. Instead, Reiji had deliberately kept himself one step behind him. He had been the first twin-born, but Reiji had inherited more of the Kirihara blood than he had. Reiji's eyes widened when he heard that, and Shinji asked if he did not understand what he had gone through. He said that Reiji cannot understand the utter loneliness he had felt every time that truth was shoved in his face, and while saying that, he tried to cut Reiji. However, Reiji blocked again, but because of Shinji's strength, he was sent flying extremely far. When he landed, he held his side, while Shinji said that this was the reason he wanted to become even stronger. He wanted to become a better heir, to become a good brother, and above all, so that he could be himself. He was even willing to do anything and use anything. Reiji was irritated to hear that, and he told Shinji not to say that to him. He could not accept that this was the reason Shinji had killed their father, and the overflowing anger he felt towards Shinji could be seen on his face. After saying that, Reiji was the one who charged forward, and he jumped extremely high to strike Shinji with a downward slash. He used Kirihara Ryu assassination arts, and when Shinji parried him, he used the Oni Kubiatoshi, Ogre Skull Splitter, which released shockwaves. When he looked at Shinji, he was completely shocked because Shinji had reached out and caught his sword with his bare hands. Shinji even said that this was how Reiji should be, and that he should just be angry at him. He also told Reiji to look down on him and throw away his pity. He wanted to see him get serious. Meanwhile, Reiji was irritated because he could not move his sword, and Shinji added that what Reiji was giving him was still not enough. He asked his twin for more intensity, and while Reiji was distracted, Shinji readied his sword. Reiji's eyes widened after that, while Shinji kept asking for even more seriousness and killing intent. After that, Reiji was shown suddenly sensing something, and his expression changed into that of someone who seemed troubled. That was because Shinji had managed to cut him in the side. Reiji stabbed his sword into the ground and asked himself why things were happening like that. He even fell to his knees, and while holding the cut on his side, he wondered if he had truly changed Shinji. He also questioned whether he had turned him into a monster. He even asked if the brother he had known had only been a lie. Shinji then said that his attack had been close, so he apologized to Reiji because he had nearly killed him. He told Reiji that there was no point in killing him when he was that shaken and confused by everything he had learned. At least, he had already said everything he needed to say to him, so they should stop that fight. He then said goodbye to Reiji and said that he had been happy to see him again. Next time, they should try to truly kill each other. Reiji did not know what to say after that, and he could only think that, just like the night Shinji killed their father, he had left him alone again. He could only hold the wound on his side and scream as loudly as he could. Somewhere else, Jiro was shown getting tired from wandering around, and he did not like it. He was even irritated at Kanawa, whom he called stupid hornhead, because Kanawa had slammed him into the ground like he was playing whack-a-mole. He even thought that one or two of his ribs might have been broken, so he cursed. Rago noticed Jiro's exhaustion and thought that it was not only from his injuries. Perhaps most of that exhaustion had come from him eating his vital energy. At that moment, he spoke to Jiro, who asked what he wanted to say. Rago mentioned that there was something he wanted to tell Jiro, but Jiro told him to be quiet first. That shocked Rago because he had not even said anything yet, and at the same time, a car arrived. The two of them saw it, and from that car, a man stepped out. He said that it had been a long time since he had spoken to Rago face to face. He was Amagi, and he added that he was glad to see Rago, whom he called an old friend. Rago was completely shocked at that moment, while Jiro realized that the person in front of them was Amagi. Amagi said that it was a surprise that Jiro already knew him, and he asked if Jiro had learned about Rago's past through some method or another. He even mentioned that it seemed Rago had opened up a little, which Rago did not seem happy about. Amagi said that it was ironic that Rago had opened his heart to a human, only to eat him. Jiro was shocked to hear that, and he asked what Amagi meant. Amagi was surprised that Jiro apparently did not know yet. He said that what Rago was doing was obvious if he thought about it for a moment. He even asked if Jiro knew how warped the idea of two souls living in one body was. No matter how much they liked each other, the two of them were incompatible beings. It was impossible for humans and Mononoke to live together peacefully. If Rago tried to use Jiro's power in that state, of course it would draw strength from Jiro's vital energy, until he burned him out like a candle. Jiro thought about that after hearing it, and he called out to Rago. He asked him if he remembered what they had done to Kanawa, because they were going to do it again. Rago wondered what Jiro wanted to do. He could not believe what Jiro wanted, and he asked if he had heard what Amagi had said. Jiro answered that he had, but asked so what, which shocked Rago even more. He shouted at Jiro that if he tried to use his power, he would consume even more of his vital energy. Jiro said that he had heard that part too, and once again asked so what. If they got scared and let that stop them, they won't be able to solve anything. He said that the last thing he wanted was to let Rago eat him, but more than that, he hated the idea of letting Amagi kill him. Aside from that, they knew Amagi had a way to separate the two of them, and he was the man behind all their problems. If they put all of that together, they had no choice but to fight, even if it shortened his life. Amagi laughed at that, and he said that it was difficult to tell whether Jiro was choosing mere rash short-sightedness or actual rational thought. Jiro asked what he meant by that, and Amagi added that, regardless, it was not as easy as Jiro thought, while landing a powerful attack on his stomach. Jiro was in extreme pain because of that, and Amagi said that given how little strength Jiro had, fighting should be the least of his concerns. Jiro collapsed to the ground after that, and he was struggling terribly. Rago even worried about him, while Amagi asked if Jiro was Rago's host. He said that he would not kill him yet, until he separated Rago from him. Rago immediately surrounded Jiro to protect him, and he called Amagi a bastard. He even warned him that if he touched Jiro, he would lose more than just an arm this time. Amagi called that a bluff, and to be honest, because Rago was bound to Jiro, he was not a threat to him. However, it would be an inconvenience to him if Jiro continued using Rago's power until it killed both of them. Because of that, he offered Rago a deal. He would consider letting Jiro live, but in exchange, he wanted Rago to swear his complete loyalty to him right there. He wanted Rago to give him his oath that he would follow him and obey every order he gave, and then he forced him to decide. He even repeated that what he wanted in return was for Rago to swear his complete loyalty to him. He even clarified that it was not an order or a demand. Rather, it was only a suggestion from an old acquaintance. If Rago wanted to refuse and resist him, that was fine, but if that was the case, Jiro would become a corpse. Of course, he would rather not expend more than necessary, and after he said that, someone arrived. That person was relieved that he had reached Amagi and the others there, and Rago recognized him. It was Koga, who was carrying Naruko, and he told Rago that he was happy to see him again. Amagi said that Koga was late, and Koga told him to give him a break because he had carried Naruko all the way there. He then asked if she would stay awake for what they were about to do, and Amagi answered that no one knew, but it should still work. He ordered Naruko to lower the barriers surrounding the city and reabsorb all of its energy. After that, he said that everything was ready, and he would remove Rago from Jiro, which shocked Rago. He even asked if Amagi was going to do that right then. Amagi explained that Rago was not interested in those kinds of things, so he doubted that he knew. But removing a Mononoke from a mere human vessel was easy. They only needed to bombard him from the outside with a large mass of energy to create a hole, then remove the Mononoke, Rago, from inside. It was that simple, and while saying that, Koga opened up a Snickers bar. Rago was shocked by the idea of creating a hole in Jiro, and he realized that if they did that, Jiro would die. Amagi mentioned that Rago was quick to understand, and said that was exactly what would happen. The more Rago struggled, the more stress would be placed on Jiro. In his exhausted state, too much stress could result in his death. Rago thought about it, then told Amagi that he had better be telling the truth, which made Amagi wonder. Rago even asked Amagi if it was true that he would let Jiro go if he quietly went with him. Amagi did not answer and simply continued smoking, then ordered Naruko to begin. In the next scene, it shifted to a doctor who said that fortunately, Reiji had no significant organ damage, but he had lost a lot of blood, so they would operate on him once they arrived at the hospital. Shiba answered that it was fine and told them to take care of Reiji. Ichika was worried about him, and Shiba ordered her to go with the medical team and call Usami on the way. She was a little surprised, but she immediately obeyed. Fuyo was impressed that Reiji had a big hole in his gut and had still managed to return on his own, so he was tougher than she had expected. At that moment, someone called Shiba, and he answered it. The caller told him that the results he had gotten were not very good for what he had been bragging about earlier, because out of the 3 agents he had sent, he had 1 prisoner, 1 casualty, and 1 missing in action. It was Kasumi, and Shiba asked where she was. Kasumi answered that she had just arrived at the west side perimeter, and unlike Shiba, she was busy securing the area and limiting media access. She was also identifying and circulating the available information and contacting every organization involved. She said that she had finally reached a point where she could step back and relax, but then an emergency backup request suddenly came in, which irritated her. Shiba said that he had no excuses, and Kasumi added that they had confirmed that the barrier had been lowered, so they would send forces into the city. Shiba asked if it was a group of regular Onmitsu, but Kasumi answered that she herself would lead them. She would bring Himazuka and Inui with her, which shocked Shiba to hear. She told Shiba that the 2 were part of Black Cloak, the most lauded squad of elites in Division 1. Shiba was lucky that the 2 of them were not busy, and he should thank Tokieda for convincing the brass to let her use them. Even if the situation was bad enough to use the 2 of them, they had to do whatever it took to control the situation immediately. At the same time, the 2 were arguing because the senior had stolen the junior's nuts. Kasumi added that they would do things her way, and she ordered Shiba to find Jiro's location and send it to her immediately. Shiba answered that he understood and told Kasumi that he would take responsibility for everything, asking only that she retrieve Jiro and Rago. Kasumi did not answer and ended the call with Shiba. After that, she called Himizuka and Inui because they were moving out. Back where Jiro and the others were, Naruko used her power and began extracting Rago from Jiro. Rago was irritated because he could already feel himself being removed. He even cursed because he and Jiro had struggled and fought so hard, but in the end, they were still at Amagi's mercy. He could not accept that he had dragged Jiro into all of that, and he could do nothing. However, with the little power he had, there was nothing left he could do, and at that moment, Jiro suddenly grabbed his tail. Jiro asked what was happening, and Rago was shocked that he was awake. Jiro wondered why Rago was just loafing around there, and said that this was a fight they had started together. He was about to say something about whether he would let Rago drop out and leave on his own, but before he could finish, Amagi pulled Rago away and asked what he was doing. The hole was already large enough, so Rago should not waste any more of his time, and he should come out. He even asked if Rago would rather break along with his vessel, Jiro, which Rago did not like hearing. In Koga's mind, he was telling Amagi to calm down, because at the end of the day, Rago would become his partner. He was about to say something else, but he heard a car arriving. He wondered what it was, and saw a car with a man riding on its roof. He was shocked to see that, so he asked what it was. Someone then called the man on top of Mutt and asked if he was ready, and he answered the person speaking to him that he was ready, calling her Hime. His companion suddenly hit the brakes, so the car stopped abruptly, and the man used that force to jump toward Amagi and the others. He was about to kick while shouting the words "super determination," and he directed his attack at Amagi. His attack was so powerful that Koga worried for Amagi. At that moment, a woman had already gotten behind Koga and told him that he was too slow while touching his back. She struck him with an extremely powerful 1-inch punch, sending him flying far away. After that, the man laughed, completely hyped up, and told Hime, the woman, that they were extremely in sync. Hime said that what they did seemed fine, but she had already told the man several times not to shout his corny attack names. She even kicked him in the butt, and he thanked her, while Jiro wondered what was going on. He asked who the two of them were, and wondered if they were the backup. At that moment, a woman wearing heels arrived, and it was Kasumi, so we learned that the woman the man called Hime was Himizuka, while the man was Inui. That was followed by a car flying through the air, which Koga had punched away in anger. He told the humans not to push their luck, and charged at them, calling them trashy humans. Himizuka and Inui prepared to fight, but they were confused when Koga did not attack them. Koga immediately moved away, and it turned out that he had only taken Naruko. He said that they had already gotten what they had come there for, and they had something more important to do than play with humans, whom he called losers. Kasumi then seemed to realize something, and she looked behind them. There, they saw a Tori gate portal, with someone standing in front of it. It was Amagi, who was holding Rago, and he told the Onmitsu that they were too late. He even mockingly thanked them for looking after Rago for him, but said he would be taking him now. After saying that, he said goodbye, while Inui and Himizuka tried to charge at him. As for Jiro, he seemed stunned, and he could not take his eyes off Rago. When Rago saw him, he gave him a smile, and the two seemed to understand each other. Rago even seemed to laugh, while Jiro's body collapsed, and he blacked out. After that, the scene shifted to Reiji, who had woken up. He was still in some pain as he got up, and someone told him not to stand yet. He looked for his glasses so he could see who it was. In front of him were Ichika, who told him not to complain if his stitches opened, and Usami, who asked how he was and if he recognized them. Reiji asked where he was. He even thought he was in heaven because two angels were watching over him, and someone said that he was in a hospital, then handed him his glasses. Usami said that she would call the doctor and talk to Shiba to tell him that Reiji was awake. After that, Ichika told Reiji that he had been asleep for a whole day, surprising him. She even said that she had spent that entire day waiting with Usami, so Reiji should thank them. She also bragged that out of the three of them, including Jiro, she was the only one who had managed to capture her target, while the two of them had ended up bedridden, so she called them pathetic and useless. To Ichika's surprise, Reiji agreed with her, and said himself that he was pathetic. He even apologized, and Ichika said that she had not been serious because she was only teasing him. Reiji then asked how Jiro was, and if it was true that he was also bedridden there. Ichika answered that he was not, but could not find the words to explain. When she tried to, the scene shifted to a forest. There was a torii gate there, and Amagi apologized to Koga for making him wait. Koga asked what Amagi had done, and Amagi said that he was speaking to their allies across the country. After that, he asked what had happened to Rago, and Koga said that he had woken up earlier, about an hour ago. He had stuck him inside the barrier just as Amagi had told him, but so far, it did not seem like Rago planned to struggle. Amagi said that he would speak to Rago first, and that Koga should just wait outside. Koga answered yes, but in his mind, he called Amagi bossy. Amagi then entered the barrier, and he asked Rago how he was. Rago laughed at that question. He could not believe that Amagi would ask him that after putting him inside that barrier, and he said that he felt like utter crud. Amagi told him not to be like that, because he had made sure there was a soft cat bed there for Rago, and it had even been expensive. According to Rago, it was not comfortable to lie on, and Amagi added that he had even provided food for Rago, which was a woman who had been tied up. He even asked Rago if he would not eat the woman, and Rago answered that he did not want to. Amagi said that if that was the case, then the woman was only a waste of space, and he flicked his fingers. Rago tried to stop him, but he was too late, because the woman's head exploded. The woman's corpse fell behind Rago, while Amagi said that humans were truly fragile. He did not even need to touch them directly to break them. However, that inferior species acted as if they were the masters of the world, and he asked Rago if there was any more twisted and irrational absurdity than that. Rago then questioned whether Amagi thought Mononoke should replace them. Amagi answered that Rago did not understand, because they were not replacing the position of humans. Rather, they were only returning the world to its natural state. It was only right for the strong to be worshipped by the weak, and that was how the world should be. Rago said that he could not say he understood that at all. First, why had Amagi needed to do all of that just to drag him into it? If Amagi wanted to declare war on humans, then why had he not just done that? Amagi answered that he had done that before. After Rago sealed himself inside the killing stone, he gathered the army of his allies once more. He incited them, organized them, led them to war, and they were defeated. He said that defeat had been truly devastating, and it had been a profoundly important experience. Beaten and battered, he hid and reflected on how ignorant he had been. He realized that as individuals, humans were fragile and weak, and only when they gathered together did their true strength emerge. For them Mononoke, who have only ever spent their lives alone, that was a concept beyond their comprehension. However, population-wise, they were at an extreme disadvantage against humans, and they could not turn the battle around and use tactics against them. If they wanted to defeat countless humans, they needed one overwhelmingly powerful individual, and that was Rago. Over all those years, the Onmitsu had forgotten why they had gathered together, and they had also forgotten their purpose. They no longer had the ability to stop Rago at his full power, and all that remained was for the allies he had gathered to attack all at once. Before he could finish, Rago suddenly laughed. Amagi asked if something was funny, and Rago answered that nothing was. Amagi must have been really desperate if he was asking a cat for help. He even said that he was willing to help if Amagi wanted him to, and Amagi said that Rago was being very obedient. Rago answered that he had no choice. He did not like it, but that was what they had agreed on. Amagi thought about that after hearing it, and his eyes suddenly widened as if he had realized something shocking. After that, the scene shifted to Koga, and the place was shaking, which shocked him. He felt that it was coming from inside the barrier, so he wondered what was going on. Back inside, the building in the background was smoking, and Amagi could be seen having used his power. Rago, who had been hurt, asked him why he had done that, because if that attack had hit him, he would have died. Amagi then picked Rago up, while Rago told Amagi to be a little gentler and asked if he really wanted to kill him. Before he could finish, Amagi told him to shut up. He asked where Rago's tail was, who just laughed. He said that Amagi had been so rough when he yanked him out of Jiro that his tail had snapped off. Along with it, every drop of his power had been left inside Jiro. Because of that, he was basically nothing more than a fuzzy leather bag at that point, and he had truly become a cat. He even mockingly asked Amagi if he should act like one, so he meowed. Because of that, Amagi threw him hard onto the ground and said that it was not a funny joke. Rago said that if that was the case, then Amagi should not miss. He did not want to die, but he only had the speed and reflexes of a cat now, and he would not be able to dodge. Amagi then charged up his next attack, and Rago nervously said that dying was scary. After he said that, Amagi struck him with a powerful attack, releasing a blast-like attack from the ground beneath him. Rago then said that the rest was up to Jiro, and the scene shifted to where Jiro was, telling someone to cut the crap. First, they had attached a contraption to him while he was unconscious, and now they were telling him that he could not leave that warehouse. He was not going to just sit there and accept that nonsense. Kasumi told him that his opinion was irrelevant to his conditions. She was the one making the decisions, and he would only obey. That was how organizations worked. She added that the Mononoke suppression device they had attached to Jiro was for his own good, and they were not detaining him because it was protective custody. Rago's disappearance and the fact that he had left all of his power inside a single human vessel was an unexpected development. Because of that, they first needed to conduct a thorough evaluation of Jiro's condition before they could decide on his official disposition. Jiro said that he would get nowhere by talking to Kasumi, and he ordered her to get Shiba because he was the one he wanted to speak with. Kasumi answered that Shiba was undergoing an official inquiry, and she expected that it would take some time before he could come there. Jiro did not like hearing that, and he said that he was extremely ticked. He had been beaten up, Rago had been taken from him, and now they were locking him up to question him. He added that if Shiba could not come to him, then he would go to him instead. Inui asked if he was stupid because they would not let him simply leave that place. Because of that, he should just sit down and do as they said, and Inui even called him a kid. That was followed by Jiro kicking the bed upward with extreme force. He asked what of it if he was a kid, because the stupid adults were not inspiring any confidence in him. He did not believe that what they had attached to him was for his own good, because it was only for their own convenience. Each and every one of them was doing whatever they wanted, so he would do whatever he wanted to. After saying that, he removed the Mononoke suppression device that had been attached to him and said that it was his mess, so he would clean it up. Amagi was his problem, so he would beat him down himself. In the next scene, Shiba had already been addressed by the higher-ups, and they said that even though he was officially the one in charge of that incident, they would let it slide for now. Shiba said that was nice of them, while the higher-ups added that the more important question was about Jiro Azuma's disposition. One with horns even said that if they wanted to be safest, wouldn't the smartest option not be to kill him? Another answered that there was no guarantee Rago's power would disappear if his vessel was destroyed, so that risk was far too great. Someone said that if that was the case, they had no choice but to imprison Jiro, so someone asked where they would keep him and who would guard him. Inadequate preparations would only result in a repeat of the 7th Sealing Shrine incident. Someone then asked if they could request additional personnel from the Metropolitan Police and the Ministry of Defense. One of the higher-ups answered that they were trying to contain the power of a Mononoke, while Shiba asked himself why old fogies with political power were always like that. At that moment, they asked him for his opinion. Shiba answered that the most reasonable answer seemed to be protective custody, but he doubted Jiro would agree to being locked up, and he called him a problem child. Back with Jiro, he was already panting and on his knees. Inui asked if he had already let out his anger. Inui even told Jiro to give up and settle down, and he bragged that he had been holding back, which irritated Jiro to hear. Jiro seemed to grit his teeth at Inui, while Inui said that Jiro was extremely strong but did not know how to use that strength, making it worthless. Because of that, he should be a good kid and listen to his elders. Jiro shouted at Inui to shut up and charged at him again. However, the moment he moved, Inui's hand was already on his head, and he asked if he did not know when to give up. Inui also told Jiro to stop his rebellious teen act, and it was time to sit down and be quiet. After saying that, he threw Jiro's head hard into the floor, creating cracks in it. Inui then added that he would explain what he meant so even an idiot like Jiro could understand. Right now, Jiro was a bare sword blade. He used to have a sheath and hilt, which was Rago, and that controlled and directed the power, allowing Jiro to use it. However, now Jiro had no control, so in his current state, he was dangerous and could cut anyone, including himself. He even acknowledged that Jiro had guts and spunk, and to be honest, he did not dislike that. But at that moment, Jiro could not do anything. Because of that, he should let the adults handle things and simply hold on and wait for now. Outside, Himizuka asked Kasumi if it was really alright to let Inui handle Jiro alone. Kasumi answered that she doubted there would be any difference no matter who she put inside with Jiro. However, assigning a babysitter to him was better than trying to intimidate him with numbers. Aside from that, they were only buying time, and Himizuka asked what for. Kasumi answered that they were waiting for the person who could truly handle Jiro to arrive. Somewhere else, inside a vehicle, Tokieda received a call from Kasumi, so he asked what can he do for her. He even said that he had already explained the situation to his companion, and he had agreed to help them. The two of them were already on their way to Kasumi's location at that moment, and they would arrive in 15 minutes. As Kasumi had suggested, he had made his companion wear espionage gear just in case it was needed. He even asked if the situation had gotten bad enough to require that. Kasumi answered that it had not yet, because the situation was still stable, but they did not know when it would get worse. After she said that, the door of the warehouse exploded as Inui flew out, getting Himizuka and Kasumi's attention. Inui even cursed, and Himizuka worried about him. Tokieda asked Kasumi if something had happened, and she answered that, as she had been saying, the situation was getting worse. Jiro had already come out of the warehouse, and he was using the power Rago had left behind in him. Back with Tokieda, he suddenly hit the brakes, and he apologized to his companion because it looked like the situation was suddenly getting worse. The person with Tokieda was irritated, and it turned out to be Toshimasa, who called his grandson a brat. After that, the two got out of the vehicle, and Tokieda said that their destination was just on the other side of the mountain where they were, so they would leave the car and take the direct route. After saying that, the two of them jumped, and they made their way through the mountain forest. At the warehouse, the other Onmitsu had already aimed their guns at Jiro, but Kasumi told them not to shoot and not to make Jiro even more aggravated. At the same time, Himizuka called Inui a stupid mutt and asked what he had done. Inui did not know why Jiro had become like that, because he had only been trying to convince him to calm down, just as he had been asked. Meanwhile, Kasumi told herself that Jiro had been pushed past his limit by stress and had lost control of himself. She had thought something like that would happen sooner or later, but she had hoped that it would happen later, so Tokieda needed to hurry. After that, Inui told Jiro that his tantrum was the reason he was still a child. He added that he would no longer hold back, and that it was nothing personal. However, before he could move, Jiro had already attacked him in the stomach, which shocked him greatly, while Himizuka only became more worried. It turned out that what Jiro had hit was only Inui's clothes, and Inui called him a bastard because Jiro had torn his one and only suit. Inui even told Jiro to get ready, because his counterattack was going to hurt. He hit Jiro with a powerful hook punch directly to the face, which seemed to shatter the armor made from Rago's power. Jiro managed to catch himself in a backbend pose. Inui watched him, and he stood up as if nothing had happened. There was not even any emotion on his face, as if he had been swallowed by Rago's power. Meanwhile, Inui was irritated because he could not tell if his attacks were affecting Jiro. Either way, it was obvious that he could not stop Jiro without getting serious. His suit was specially designed armor that could absorb the shock from a bazooka blast, and Jiro had torn it apart like tissue paper. He also knew that if he kept flailing around too long, Jiro might just end up using him as his new scratching post. At that moment, Jiro's form seemed to change, and he developed the mouth of a wolf and large fangs. Himizuka and Kasumi seemed to show a hint of concern when they saw that, and Jiro charged up an attack from his mouth. He aimed it at Inui, who could not accept what was about to happen to him. When Jiro released his attack, an explosion occurred that could be seen even from far away. That resulted in smoke filling the area, making Himizuka and Kasumi look even more worried. From the smoke, Jiro emerged. He used the tentacle-like thing from his armor like a whip and aimed it at Kasumi and the others. However, before it could hit the two of them, a man stepped in and split the tentacle, while Himizuka supported him by deflecting the part that got past him. The man who stepped in apologized, and he was Banjuro Tokieda, who said that he was present and awaiting orders. After that, someone was shocked by what he was seeing, and he asked if Jiro had done something crazy again. He also said that Jiro looked full of energy and asked if something good had happened. It was Toshimasa, and he waited for Jiro to answer. Jiro said nothing, and he leapt extremely high toward his grandfather. Because of that, Toshimasa called him a disappointment. Jiro tried to claw at him, but Toshimasa blocked his attack and told him that he did not even recognize him. As a counter, Toshimasa gave Jiro a powerful uppercut that sent him flying and broke his wolf-like mask. He also said that they should stop that because it was time for Jiro to wake up, calling him his foolish grandson. He then struck Jiro with an extremely powerful palm strike directly to his spine, and that caused Rago's power to disperse. Jiro returned to his true self and collapsed onto the ground. A little later, they sat Jiro down beside the warehouse, and Toshimasa could not believe that Shiba was in a meeting while his grandson was in that state. He had even been planning to scold Jiro, but this was different. Kasumi said that what had happened to Jiro was her responsibility, and she apologized to Toshimasa, whom she called Instructor Izuma. Inui asked who he was, and Himizuka questioned why Inui was still alive. He answered that his toughness had saved him, and asked why Himizuka had phrased it that way, because it hurt to hear. She then said that the old man was Toshimasa Izuma, Jiro's grandfather and a retired Onmitsu. She had heard that before he retired, he had been Kusumi's instructor, and that came from Tokieda. Inui was shocked to hear that and realized that it meant Toshimasa was the superior of their superior. He even said that he would introduce himself to him, but Himizuka told him to take a hint while kicking him in the butt, and he thanked her for it. After that, Toshimasa asked what Kasumi planned to do with Jiro. Was she going to imprison his grandson, or follow the old ways of the Onmitsu and kill Jiro? Kasumi answered that the final decision on his disposition would come from the higher-ups, but when considering the various risks involved, she doubted they would kill him. Because Kasumi had mentioned that the reason Jiro would not be killed was that it was risky, Toshimasa realized that nothing had changed. The organization still chose the grand cause over people's lives. At that moment, Jiro woke up and said that it was not funny. Toshimasa and Kasumi were talking about him as if he was not even there. And did they really think they could lock him up? Or worse, kill him? If they thought they could do that, then they should try. This time, he might actually kill someone. Toshimasa was shocked to hear that, and he was about to ask Jiro something, but before he could say it, Jiro answered yes. Jiro mentioned that he had no control over his body earlier, but he had been conscious while it was happening. He had truly tried to kill Inui and his grandfather, and he had almost done it with his own hands. However, before he could finish saying that, his grandfather swatted him on the head. Kasumi watched the grandfather and grandson argue. On one side, Jiro could not understand what his grandfather meant by hitting him on the head, while on the other side, Toshimasa said that he needed to knock Jiro's energy back inside him. He even added that Jiro should not flatter himself because he had not almost killed him. He asked if Jiro really thought that he had become stronger by allowing borrowed power to control him. That was why he was still a fool. Aside from that, he was not so old and weak that Jiro could kill him with what he had done. He also said that he knew his grandson was angry and confused, but he should try to calm down and think first. Fighting everyone would not solve the problem. Because of that, Jiro should stop trying to solve everything alone. One person could not do everything, and he reminded Jiro to ask others for help. From that point on, he would help Jiro, so he should stop panicking and relax. He even asked Jiro if he understood, and Jiro answered yes and thanked him. After that, Toshimasa sighed, and he spoke to Inui and Himizuka. He told them that he understood the gravity of the situation, but they should not forget that Jiro was only human like them. If they tried to treat Jiro like an object again just because it was more convenient for them, he would speak to the two of them again. Inui answered that he would engrave it into his soul, while Himizuka simply answered yes. Toshimasa added that Kasumi was included in that, and she answered with yes, sir. After that, the scene shifted to the headquarters of the Black Torch Squad, where Ichika was quietly reflecting outside. Usami suddenly surprised her by pressing a very cold drink against her neck. Ichika asked why she had done that. Usami apologized and answered that Ichika had been staring into space with such a melancholy look. Ichika asked what kind of reason that was, and Usami asked what was wrong. If Ichika wanted to talk about it, she would listen. Ichika thought for a moment, before saying that it was nothing. She was just thinking that everyone except her was facing difficult situations and problems. Except for her, who was just sitting there doing nothing. She even wondered if there was nothing she needed to do. Usami, who was about to cry, said that she was also part of that division, so Ichika took back what she said. She explained that she only felt that when all is said and done, there was truly nothing she could do. Usami said that everyone felt that way from time to time. She herself could not fight like Ichika and the others. She was always left behind in the office doing paperwork or waiting for them to return. She could also sit there when Ichika needed someone to listen to her. It might not be obvious, but she thought that perhaps she was the only one who could do that, and that was her special duty. She also told Ichika not to worry too much, because she was sure there was something only Ichika could do. A big and special duty that only she could accomplish, and one far more important than what Usami could do. Usami even laughed after saying that, and said that she was only joking, which made Ichika smile. At that moment, Shiba interrupted their conversation and asked if they were gossiping and if he could join, which shocked them. Ichika could not believe that Shiba had already returned, and he said that he had just gotten back. After that, he spoke to Usami. He told her that he had forgotten his wallet, so maybe she could pay for the taxi he had taken for now. Usami immediately did it while even apologizing, while Ichika told herself that she had a feeling that was another one of the duties only Usami could do. Right at that moment, Shiba called her because he had something he wanted her to do, and he said that he thought she was the only one who could do it. She suddenly froze when she heard that, so Shiba asked if there was something on his face. She answered that there was nothing, but his timing had just been perfect, without knowing that it was what she and Usami had been talking about before he arrived. Somewhere else, a man named Seiki greeted Shiba and said that he was from Division 1. He then showed them where they were going, and Ichika was surprised that they actually had an office inside MPD headquarters. Shiba answered that they sort of did, and he explained that they rented a small space in the MPD basement to imprison their dangerous suspects. However, the suspect being held there now was not human. His name was Rorin, and he was the Mononoke Ichika had captured. He was an important potential source of information about Amagi, but he insisted that if they wanted anything beyond his name, they needed to bring Ichika there, which made her ask why. Shiba answered that they did not know because, after all, he was not human. They had already tried every normal interrogation technique on him, but nothing had worked. As he opened the door to Rorin's cell, Shiba mentioned that Rorin was wearing shackles that inhibited his powers, but he suggested that Ichika stay alert. When Ichika entered the room where Rorin was, she was suddenly transported to a place filled with flowers, which shocked her. She asked what it was, and Rorin said that she had finally arrived because he had been waiting for her. Ichika could not believe what had happened because Shiba had said that Rorin should have been weakened by his shackles. Rorin asked if Ichika had forgotten that his power was illusion, and he showed her that the shackles he was wearing were not real. He had only made it look like he had them on, and that had been extremely easy. Now that Ichika was there alone, he said they should begin. He then gave her a bouquet and said that it was time for her to become his wife, which completely shocked Ichika. Rorin even said that when someone lived long enough, the excitement and novelty of things fades away. The feelings that reminded a person that they were alive. That had been made even worse by being stuck hiding in the shadows of humans. That was why he had accepted Amagi's offer. He had been looking for a thrill, and he did not care about Amagi's ideals or anything like that. After that, he said that he met Ichika, and everything about her had been extremely fresh and provocative, like her piercing gaze and her naughty attitude. That was when he realized that one of the things that gave life flavor was the thrill of forbidden love, and after saying that, he changed the topic of their conversation. He asked Ichika if she really needed to look at him as if he were talking garbage. He said that he was not complaining, and that he actually liked it a little, but before he could finish, Ichika asked him if anything fazed him. She even said that she did not care about what Rorin was saying. She was there to question him, and that was what she would do. She started by asking everything Rorin knew about Amagi. He immediately agreed to answer, but on the condition that Ichika became his bride first, which irritated her and made her want to kill Rorin. However, Ichika calmed herself down. She knew that Rorin loved her, so she asked herself if she could use those feelings against him. She thought that she could, because after all, sex appeal was the greatest weapon of a kunoichi, a female ninja. At the same time, She started acting and told Roran that if he was nice to her and told her everything, then maybe it would be okay for her to go on a date with him. She even followed that with a cute please, but he did not agree. Roran said that this was not what he was looking for, and that Ichika was not good at the sexy allure thing. Because of that, she got angry and told Roran to speak or she would cut him down, which finally made him obey. Because of that, they began the interrogation and Ichika got straight to the point. She asked where Amagi was and what his plan was. After that, the scene shifted to a mountain surrounded by forest, and there was a torii gate there, but its portal was closed. Koga was inside trying to get out by kicking the torii gate, but he failed, which irritated him. He even called Amagi a bastard and said that he did not need to close the barrier after leaving. Because he was so irritated, he mentioned that he would just destroy the entire gate. But before he could finish, Rago told him not to do that. If he destroyed it, they would be trapped there forever. Koga told Rago to shut up when he heard that, because he did not want to listen to a worthless puff of fluff that should have already been dead by then. Rago said that he knew Koga was annoyed, but he should not take his anger out on him. After all, whose fault was it that he was not dead by then? Koga could not answer, which implied that he was the answer to Rago's question. That was followed by the scene returning to the past after Amagi had attacked Rago for the second time, and Koga was asking himself why things had turned out that way. At that time in the past, Amagi asked him what he was doing, because he had saved Rago from his attack. Rago said that was his line, while Koga returned the question to Amagi and asked what he was doing. After he had gone through so much trouble to take Rago, was Amagi really just going to kill him like that? Amagi answered that the Rago Koga was holding, whom he called a leather sack, was not the Rago he wanted, which confused Koga. That was when Amagi revealed that Rago's true power was still inside Jiro Azuma. Koga could not believe what he heard, and he said that Amagi was only joking. However, Amagi answered that he wished he were joking, but that was the truth. He said that Koga could probably feel that there was not an ounce of power in the Rago he was holding, and Koga answered that he could, but that did not mean they needed to kill Rago. He argued that even without power, Rago was still a Mononoke like them. Amagi laughed when he heard that, and he called Koga naive. However, he said that maybe he should not have been surprised, because Koga was still a baby who was only around 2 decades old. Koga told him not to treat him like a child, and Amagi added that it seemed they could still use Rago. Because of that, he would let Koga keep Rago, and he told him to take care of the leather sack, which confused Koga. Koga asked where Amagi was going, who answered that he had called all of his compatriots from across Japan. They were on their way, and he still had many things to prepare before he was ready to meet them. He said that the steps may not have been in the proper order, but that did not affect his plan, which confused Koga. Amagi then added that he was certain everything would work perfectly. While he handled the necessary preparations, Koga should stay there, which shocked him to hear. Back in the present, Koga said that he was confused. He did not know what Amagi meant when he said the plan was not really affected or whatever. He also asked if they were not supposed to work with Rago and kill the Onmitsu. Aside from that, he asked what Naruko was doing there, just sitting blankly. He asked her again, and Naruko answered that Amagi had said it was getting dark outside, so she should go inside. Koga did not seem to believe that, while Rago said that Amagi had simply put them away in a convenient closet. There was Koga, the idiot, Naruko, the moron, and himself, an empty sack. Because of that, Koga asked him why he would describe their situation like that. He even asked how was Rago not completely depressed, especially since he had included himself in that. In Rago's mind, he said that Amagi's attitude bothered him. When Amagi left that place, he noticed that there had been no bluff in what he said. Because of that, he felt that Amagi had another goal, something that was not revenge against the Onmitsu, and at that moment, Koga was eating a Snickers bar. He tried to offer some to Rago, who refused, and then to Naruko, who accepted. Somewhere else, Jiro seemed extremely hungry as he ate. His grandfather even said that he had an appetite that day, and Jiro said that he really wanted to eat. After all, no one could say when he would be able to eat something good again, so he needed to fill himself up while he still could. Aside from that, there was an old saying that you could not fart on an empty stomach. Toshimasa said that the proper saying was that you could not go to war on an empty stomach, and Jiro said that they were pretty much the same. Toshimasa added that, so Jiro would remember, The higher-ups were looking for an excuse to permanently seal away Rago's power. That meant the best thing Jiro could get was life imprisonment, and the worst was erasure or death. None of the outcomes were good, and to avoid that, Jiro first needed to learn how to control Rago's power by himself. He explained to his grandson that humans and Mononoke were like yin and yang. They were two opposing forces that resisted and rejected each other. If they were allowed to remain in contact for too long, it would invite disaster. Because of that, Jiro needed to abandon his humanity. Jiro thanked his grandfather and said that what he was asking was completely impossible. According to Toshimasa, to make it clearer, they were sending Jiro into natural surroundings where he would try to shed his humanity as much as possible. Jiro needed to get as close as he physically and mentally could to his inner beast. In that state, Jiro should get better at harmonizing and merging with the power inside him. Of course, all of that was only speculation because nothing like it had ever happened before. Because of that, the rest would be up to Jiro, whether he learned to control his power or let it devour him alive. After that, Toshimasa said that the place where Jiro would stay alone was the Avidya forest. Officially, that forest was a national park, but in truth, what stood before them was no longer human territory. What he was saying was that the forest was already the domain of a Mononoke. To be exact, one named Ibuki, which shocked Jiro to hear. Toshimasa then explained that several centuries ago, the Oniwabanshu and Ibuki had agreed to a pact of mutual non-aggression. Jiro asked what that was, and Toshimasa answered that Ibuki had agreed not to touch them as long as they did not bother them, and Jiro said that made sense. However, he suddenly wondered why they were there if they were not supposed to bother Ibuki. His grandfather told him to calm down. They were not stupid, and they had made sure to send a special messenger in advance to explain the situation. Jiro wondered who that was, and at that moment, the special messenger greeted him, saying that she had heard he had gotten into even more trouble than the last time they met. It was none other than Fuyo, who said that it had been a long time since she last climbed the mountain, and that it was tiring. Toshimasa thanked Fuyo and called her an old fox. She answered that he owes her for that, and she called him Lil Toshi. Jiro was shocked that the two of them knew each other, and Fuyo grinned while saying that one could say that. She even told Jiro that when his grandfather had just been newly recruited, he had used her Lotus encampment spell for training, and there was more to it. But before she could finish, Toshimasa shouted at her that it was not the time for old stories. He then asked what Ibuki had said, and Fuyo answered that their answer was simple and clear. They would kill them if they entered their forest. Toshimasa said that was good, and he wished Jiro good luck, which made Jiro ask if he had gone insane. Jiro questioned whether his grandfather had not heard what Ibuki said, that if he entered their forest, they would kill him. Toshimasa answered that he had, because he was not deaf yet. However, the message had not said that they should not enter, which shocked Jiro. He said that Toshimasa was only making things technical, because saying they would be killed if they entered sounded the same as saying not to enter. Fuyo said that she expected there was a difference, so Jiro asked how. Fuyo explained that Ibuki was straightforward and did not lie, and if they wanted them not to enter, they would have said so. If that had been the case, she would not have been able to leave without trouble either. Jiro tried to speak, but Fuyo added that, of course, no one could say what Ibuki truly meant. Maybe they had decided to show a little sympathy for their situation, or maybe they were intrigued by Jiro. Ibuki had long had a reputation for being strange, and no one could say what a shut-in was thinking. When Jiro heard that, he told Fuyo to stop talking about it as if it was someone else's problem. That was followed by Toshimasa asking Jiro what he wanted to do, because no one would stop him if he did not want to continue, which confused Jiro. Toshimasa explained that he could let the Bureau place him in protective custody. He would lose his freedom, but his life definitely would not be put in danger. After that, he asked Jiro again what he wanted to do, because now was the time to say it. Jiro laughed and said that he was not backing down. He had long prepared himself for whatever would happen, so he would not run. After that, someone drew on the ground with a stick. It was Fuyo, and she explained that as part of the pact between the Oniwabanshu and Ibuki, an extremely powerful barrier had been created around the Mononoke forest. It prevented normal humans from accidentally entering, and what it did was spit people out on the other side. The lotus she gave Jiro would give him the ability to enter the barrier, but it was only a one-way ticket. Once Jiro entered, the the lotus would disappear along with its power. And in short, Jiro needed to find his own way out. One example would be if Jiro used Rago's power to create a hole in the barrier so he could get out. After that, Jiro entered, and Fuyo said that he had gone in more quietly than she had expected, and she wondered if Jiro truly understood what that meant. She had even tried to scare Jiro, but he had not even flinched. Call it bravado or whatever, but she thought she had only wasted her breath. At that moment, Toshimasa called himself a coward. He had retired from the front lines, and he wanted to think that he had lived a normal life. But his soul still lived in the shadows of being an Onmitsu. He knew what to do to force Jiro to enter the forest, and he knew the higher-ups would allow it because they would hope to trap Jiro there forever. He knew all of that, which was why he had proposed that solution, and he called himself coldly calculating toward his own grandson. Fuyo thought about that after hearing it, and asked Toshimasa what he was so sad about. After all, Jiro entering Ibuki's forest was the best solution for both sides. Because of that, Toshimasa should just wait and trust. After all, isn't Jiro his grandson? After that, the scene shifted to Jiro, and he asked what he was supposed to do now. They had told him to control his power, and he decided that he would first look for food and a place to sleep. He would deal with the rest after that, and he did not know how long he would last there. At that moment, he heard a voice mention that there was a human there. That was followed by other voices, with some sounding shocked, disgusted, and confused about the barrier, while one even said to tell Ibuki that there was a human. Jiro thought that the voices he was hearing might be coming from the animals in the area. One voice even told him to leave, while another wanted him to die. Jiro greeted the voices with hello, and his voice echoed throughout the forest. He introduced himself to them as Jiro Azuma and said that, for several reasons, he would be staying there for a while. He knew it was sudden, but he said he was glad to meet all of them. The voices were confused to hear that, and they thought Jiro was creepy for talking to himself. So Jiro said that he could hear everything they were saying. He knew that this was a huge inconvenience for all of them, so he would tell them to just accept it. If they had a problem with him, then they could fight him. He did not care if he was sleeping, eating, or taking a dump. He would fight them anytime. However, no one answered him. So he understood what his situation there would be, and simply told the animals again that he was glad to meet them. As he said that, a snake watched him from behind a tree. After that, Jiro wandered through the forest inside the barrier, and before long, he found a place he could use as shelter. There was a creek nearby, so he had water, and there was also wood that could be used for firewood. The only problem was the mushrooms there. He asked if they were shiitake mushrooms, but he immediately realized they were not. He said that he had vague memories of eating them when his grandfather had taken him camping before, but he was not sure if those were really the same ones. At that moment, the snake arrived. Jiro thought about eating herbs or plants, but he had no pot he could use to boil them. Because of that, he asked himself if he should just fast, but he realized that would only delay the issue of food because there was no certainty about how long he would be there. At the same time, the snake attacked him, but he managed to dodge and catch it, which confused the snake. The snake could not believe that Jiro had caught it, while Jiro mentioned that his first challenger was apparently an albino snake. He even said that it was a good omen, and the snake told him to let it go. He then told the snake to stop struggling because he was not going to eat it or anything. The snake could not accept that it had been caught by a mere human, and Jiro said that he was not just a human. Because of that, the snake asked if Jiro could really understand what it was saying, and Jiro confirmed that it was true, saying that it was a special talent he had been born with. The snake was shocked that Jiro had been born with it, and said that it was disgusting. Because of that, Jiro spun the snake around extremely fast, making it apologize over and over again and beg him to stop. After that, Jiro told the snake about his situation, and the snake asked if he was stupid or just extremely stupid. When he heard that, Jiro told Snake that he had heard snakes tasted like chicken, so the snake said that it was only joking. However, when it considered Jiro's situation, it said that things were strange. The person Jiro had mentioned probably still wanted Rago's power, so wouldn't the smart move not be to let the organization take him into custody? That would be better both for all of humanity and for Jiro. Jiro answered that he did not want to, so the snake asked why. While eating the mushroom, Jiro said that he did not know why. Everyone was only talking about Rago's power, but not one of them had said anything about Rago himself. However, he stopped talking because complaining to the snake would not do anything. Personally, though, he did not want or need Rago's power. The snake said that it would ask something cold, but had Jiro not thought that Rago might already be dead. If Rago's power was with Jiro, then he no longer had any value to the enemy. Jiro answered that Rago was alive, so the snake asked how he knew, and he answered that it was just a gut feeling, which the snake could not accept. Jiro told it that he needed to find Rago, return his power to him, and scold him. He would also tell Rago that the situation was too big for him to handle, so he needed to help. When the snake heard that, it said that Jiro really was a weirdo, which made Jiro say again that snake meat really did seem tasty. A little later, Jiro placed his hand on the ground, and his head was hurting. It was not just his head, because his whole body felt flushed and sweaty. He thought that Rago's power was going wild again, but the snake said that it was probably just food poisoning. Jiro immediately thought that he was like that because of the mushrooms, so he decided that he would throw them up in the creek. The snake said okay, and he told him to be careful. While Jiro was at the creek, he said that it was only the first day, but he already felt like he was on the ropes. Still, maybe that was what his grandfather had meant by shedding his humanity. At that moment, he saw a figure with the head of a deer skull on the other side of the creek. He was extremely shocked, and the being he saw told him that he had been warned. Because of that, since he had still entered the forest, did that mean he was ready to face the consequences? It turned out that the being was a bookie, and Jiro could not believe that they had shown themselves to him at that moment. In the next scene, Jiro was already running and panting. He was irritated that a bookie had seen him when he was feeling awful, and he had recognized him. Aside from that, he was starting to feel a little dizzy, and he thought that if he could only use even a little of Rago's power, he could fight back. However, before he could finish saying that to himself, the bookie was already behind him and about to attack. He swung his enormous scythe, and that sent Jiro flying extremely far. Jiro fell into the river, and when he got back up, his clothes could be seen torn, which irritated him. Jiro was even shocked that a bookie had managed to cut through his vest like it was nothing. Ibuki then said that he had intended to cut Jiro in two with that attack, and that the clothes he was wearing were apparently sturdy. However, no matter how sturdy they were still tools made by humans. They could not withstand the power of a Mononoke forever. After that, Ibuki asked Jiro what he was waiting for and told him to show him his full strength. Jiro did not have a choice either, because if he did not bring out his strength, he would kill him with his next attack. Jiro said that Ibuki sure loved to talk, and he sarcastically apologized, saying that if he could use Rago's power, he would have already used it. Aside from that, it was not his power, but Rago's. He was only borrowing it, but while saying that, he felt a pulse from inside him. Rago's power was coming out of him, which irritated him. He told it to listen to him, but he could no longer stop it. Rago's power attacked Ibuki, who managed to cut through it to defend himself. While Ibuki was in that state, he could hear Jiro suffering, because Jiro was fighting against Rago's power for control of his body. Jiro once again told the power to listen to him, but it took over him again like before. Ibuki said that he had expected Jiro to be unable to control Rago's power, and he was going to cut him down with his scythe, while saying that it was unfortunate that Jiro's life would end there. All he could do now was make his death painless, and he would kill him in one strike, just as he had declared before. After saying that, he said goodbye to Jiro Azuma and swung his scythe. However, when Ibuki's scythe was about to hit Jiro, time stopped, and it showed that someone was watching them from a short distance away. It was Jiro himself. He asked what was happening and said not to tell him that he was seeing his whole life flash before his eyes before he died. Someone then called him an idiot and told him that when that happened, what a person saw were memories from the past. Jiro was shocked, and he could not believe that the snake had said that. He asked how it was there, and he asked if what he was experiencing was the snake's doing. The snake told Jiro to calm down because he did not have time to worry about that right now. In that state, Jiro was going to die. Jiro then looked at himself being attacked by Ibuki, and he asked if that was not an illusion. He could not accept what was happening, and he said that he could not die there because he still had something he needed to do. He even cursed, because if he could only use Rago's power, he would not have ended up in that situation. Hearing that, the snake said that Jiro really was an idiot, which confused him. The snake explained that what they were talking about was Rago's power, and no human could use it. When Jiro heard that, He asked what he was supposed to do. The snake answered that it was a good question, but it doubted that yelling would help Jiro, who was already getting a little irritated. The snake then said that it would turn the question on its head and asked what Jiro had been doing so far. Jiro did not immediately understand, and the snake asked if he had forced Rago to submit or if he had submitted to Rago. The snake also asked who Rago was to Jiro, which seemed to shock him. Was Rago a powerful weapon, a hateful monster, an enemy to humanity, or an annoying shadow? At the same time, Jiro remembered several memories he had with Rago and said that he was not like that. Rago was not like anything the snake had mentioned. He was about to say what Rago was to him, but Rago's monster form appeared beside him and the snake. Jiro screamed in shock, while Rago's monster form roared in an intimidating way, and the snake yelled at Jiro to be quiet. It told Jiro to stop flailing, because the more he did that, the more Rago's power would go berserk, which Jiro did not understand. The snake explained that Rago's power had lost its original container, and it had no will or consciousness of its own, so it was greatly influenced by Jiro's state of mind. If Jiro denied it, it would deny Jiro too. If he tried to forcefully manipulate it, it would also try to forcefully manipulate him. Because of that, Jiro should not control it, but he should not let himself be controlled by it either. If one tried to overpower the other, their union would not work. Rather, they needed to stand beside each other and move at the same pace. Jiro also needed to pay close attention to what he was feeling and thinking. Jiro was shocked to hear that, and he complained that it was hard to do all of that at the same time. The snake asked what Jiro was complaining about. After all, the reason he was in that situation was because he had been doing one crazy thing after another. However, since he had started it, he needed to see that craziness through to the end. After that, Jiro reached out to the monster form of Rago's power, and he tried to tame it. That was followed by a huge burst of water shooting upward, and Ibuki's attack hit nothing. He was even shocked at that moment, because his scythe had been broken. From a distance, Jiro was standing and doing what the snake had told him to do, standing beside Rago's power, and he looked ready to throw down. He even managed to let out a sigh of relief, because he had not thought he would actually be able to do it. However, he suddenly collapsed, and Ibuki was impressed with him, because at the very last moment, he had managed to find the key to controlling Rago's power. Ibuki even told someone that she may be right, but despite all her denial, she was still too kind for her own good. In the next scene, beside a tree, there were two beings. One of them was Jiro, who was waking up, and his companion noticed it. When he opened his eyes, his companion greeted him with good morning and asked if her lap had been a comfortable pillow. The one asking that was a female Mononoke with huge melons. Jiro did not react right away, but when he came to his senses, he screamed in shock. He wondered who that female Mononoke was, and she said that his reaction to her greeting was rude. She even said that not only had she gone out of her way to help Jiro, but she had also let him sleep on her lap all night. Jiro wondered about the woman helping him, and when he recognized her voice, he realized that she was the white snake he had been talking to. Because of that, he asked what was happening there, and the woman remembered that she had not introduced herself yet. That was when she introduced herself as the lovely and graceful Mononoke, who ruled over a Vidya forest, Ogre Lord Ibuki. Jiro was confused by that, and he asked who the skull-headed dude he had fought was. He thought that maybe it had only been an illusion created by Ibuki, but at that moment, the man greeted him and said that he was livelier and more energetic than he had expected. Jiro froze for a moment, but then screamed extremely loud in shock again. He asked what was happening and who the two of them were, but they were only talking about making milk tea, so he tried to get their attention. Ibuki then told Jiro to calm down and introduced the man as Manjimaru, her husband, though despite how he looked, he had once been human. Jiro was shocked by that, and Manjimaru said that it had been 2 centuries since he gave up his humanity. Jiro could not believe it when he learned that, and he said that Manjimaru sounded extremely weak now that they were no longer fighting. Manjimaru said that he had once been an Onmitsu of the Onawa Banshu, and that he had been assigned to destroy Ibuki. Jiro spat out what he was drinking when he heard that, and he could not believe that Manjimaru had been an Onmitsu. Manjimaru added to his story and said that, back then, Ibuki was even more powerful than the rumors claimed, and he could not even land an attack on her. He had been young at the time and easily carried away by his emotions. but he did not want to admit that he had already lost. Ibuki even told him that he had some spine for a human, and that it had been a long time since she had gotten exercise, so she thanked him. Manjimaru told Ibuki to kill him if that was what she was going to do. He was about to warn Ibuki that if she did not kill him, but she interrupted him and asked what would happen. Manjimaru answered that if Ibuki did not kill him, he would dedicate his whole life to challenging Ibuki over and over until he defeated her. He said that would be annoying for Ibuki, who had nothing to say. She even seemed to blush and let out a loud laugh, so Manjimaru asked what was so funny. Ibuki said it was because after all that bluster, Manjimaru only wanted to defeat her, not kill her, and to her, that was too cute to be an actual threat. On top of that, Manjimaru dedicating his life to fighting her sounded as if he were proposing to her, which shocked him to hear. He defended himself and said that was not what he meant, and Ibuki said that she knew that. She told Manjimaru to keep his knickers on and jokingly called him Sir Chaste. Either way, she suggested that he simply give up. Nothing good would come from a human dedicating his life to a Mononoke. However, he should not worry, because she had no intention of ever leaving that forest. As long as humans did not bother her, she promised that she would not do anything harmful to them. Because of that, Manjimaru should go home and find a kind woman to marry. However, before she could finish, he told her not to look down on him. He was a man, and a man did not go back on his word. Because of that, he promised that from that point on, he would dedicate his life to Ibuki alone, so she should prepare herself. Hearing that, Ibuki called Manjimaru a headache, and Manjimaru explained that several years after that, Ibuki gave him a portion of her power, and he became a half Mononoke and her husband. According to Ibuki, in the end, Manjimaru had out-stubborned her, and that took effort. Jiro was shocked by their story, and he asked if it was just him or if none of that made sense. Manjimaru answered that he knew that was not really how a person usually met his wife, but when someone spent half a century with another, things just happened. Jiro then asked if that was still a reason to give up his humanity. Manjimaru answered that there was no logical reason behind it, because when it came to friendship and love, race and species no longer mattered. But Jiro already knew that. When Jiro heard that, he immediately remembered Rago, and he smiled. That was when he realized that Ibuki knew all of that because there was already a precedent, and Ibuki answered that, essentially, yes. However, in Jiro's case, he had only just learned how to let go of his humanity. Aside from that, his situation was very different from Manjimaru's. Manjimaru had spent decades acclimating and learning how to control his power little by little, and Jiro did not have that much time. They had no choice but to force things. Because of that, Jiro would fight Manjimaru again and again because he needed to learn how to harmonize with his frequencies, and at the same time, Jiro prepared Rago's power. Ibuki told him to just do his best to figure out how to fight alongside Rago's power as soon as possible, as if his life depended on it. Jiro agreed, and Manjimaru told him not to worry because he would make sure to hold back so he would not kill him. Jiro answered that this was not convincing because of the scythe Manjimaru was using. After that, he looked at Ibuki and asked if he could ask her something. He wanted to know why Ibuki was doing all of that for him, because he was a human and an Onmitsu. She answered that she was not doing it only for Jiro. To be honest, she had not thought that what they did the previous night would work, but she had decided to do it anyway. Because of that, Jiro asked if she was joking, and Ibuki added that somehow, Jiro had managed to survive, so she decided to take responsibility and teach him. Aside from that, they could not let Amagi do whatever he wanted. When Jiro heard that, he asked Ibuki if she knew Amagi, and she answered that one could say that. She explained that long ago, even before the Oniwabanshu was assembled, Amagi had already been strange, even by Mononoke standards, because he did not fit in with others like them. He was exceptionally proud, extremely ambitious, and cruelly practical. He catered to no cause and trusted no one. Amagi was the human version of cold solitude. Based on his personality, Ibuki thought it was not surprising that he often got into fights, and Amagi killed everyone he fought. Before long, no one wanted to fight him anymore, because he had a peculiar ability that was unique among Mononoke. That was cannibalism, and by eating other Mononoke, Amagi could absorb their power. That power was one of the most frightening things about him. Any Mononoke who attacked Amagi was killed and eaten by him. If Amagi found any Mononoke weaker than him, he would kill and eat them too. He repeated that until the present day, gradually growing stronger. It was a way of kill or be killed, or survival of the fittest. Ibuki thought that this was the basis of Amagi's current ideals. Once Amagi reached a certain level of power, he stopped carelessly eating others. Instead of eating them as food, he turned them into useful tools he could use, the ones he called his compatriots. Amagi did that to secure and control countless human followers. As his influence grew, he had shrines built in his name and demanded that humans worship him as a god. He also made laws that he strictly enforced. If there was anything he did not like, he would give the victim divine punishment, and no one was spared. That was how Amagi maintained his authority and influence. As time passed, the long age of turbulent wars ended, and the humans moved to their capital city, which they called Edo. During that time, Amagi began to actively expand his domain at a rapid pace. Ibuki said that when she thought about it now, she wondered if even back then, Amagi had already seen what would happen next. That was because one day, Amagi visited her in her forest, and she frankly told him that she had no intention of joining him. Amagi asked why, because she had enough power to be called an ogre lord by others. He even invited her to join him as a compatriot, saying that her domain would greatly expand. However, she refused, because that forest was enough for her, and she did not need humans to worship her. Above all, she could not stand someone who was as cold as Amagi. She even told him to forget about his compatriots and make friends first. Amagi realized that Ibuki did not understand him, and he turned away to leave. Ibuki asked if Amagi was simply going to leave, and said that he was surprisingly obedient. According to Amagi, he believed that he had an accurate idea of Ibuki's full strength. If they fought, he guessed that he had a 70% chance of winning, while Ibuki had a 30% chance, and that was a risk he could not take at that time. He still had many things he needed to do, so he could not die fighting her. He also said that the whole country had been brought under the Bakufu's control. Humans would only increase in number and form stronger groups. Mononoke were already at a disadvantage, so what would happen once humans grew even more numerous? The answer was that they would be enslaved or destroyed. Either way, they would be forced to submit to humans. Living at the mercy of humans was something he could not accept, so he would rather die. Ibuki would also learn soon enough which of them was superior and which was inferior. He himself would prove it to her and to everyone. Back in the present, Amagi said that he had made that promise 250 years ago. His first attempt to crush humans had failed because of his naivete. He had underestimated humans too much and relied too much on Mononoke power. Because of that, he would not make that mistake again. If he had insufficient power, he could not look to others to supplement it. He needed to strengthen his own power himself. As he said that, he killed the Mononoke behind him and said that the weak were food for the strong. That was how things were. He then told his compatriots to join him, and together, they would take the throne they deserved. We return to the past, where Amagi had just arrived at his meeting with his compatriots. They had apparently come from different places because they believed in his ideals. He said that they no longer needed to wait, and that their preparations were complete. He declared that it was time to show humanity the true power of Mononoke, and that they would fight together as one. A short while later, the blood of the Mononoke had begun to gush, and everyone who had attended was already skewered in the air by Amagi's power, while he had already begun eating the heart of one of them. Someone commented that he was awful, and it turned out to be Shinji. He pointed out that all of those Mononoke had come there because they believed in Amagi, and that Amagi had simply taken advantage of that in order to wipe them all out just like that. He then followed that up by saying that he did not really care about it either. He also questioned Amagi eating them at that moment, saying that he thought even mindless demons would not stoop that low. Amagi recognized him, but he did not remember his name, so Shinji reminded him that his name was Kirihara. Amagi simply brushed that off and said that he was busy right now. He said that he had no time to waste on those like him, which Shinji questioned. He asked whether Amagi was not going to try to eat him too, to which Amagi laughed and explained that with so much superior nutrition within reach, one measly human was not even worth the effort. Shinji raised his katana after that and asked what about that. Amagi grabbed one of the spikes he had produced, causing it to retract and making the female Mononoke impaled on it fall. He explained that eating a mononoke while it was possessing an object was pointless. He said that he had learned that from experience several centuries ago, which Shinji then understood. Shinji commented that no wonder Amagi had gone through so much effort to try to pull Rago out of the stone and out of the boy, to which Amagi answered that he was correct. The female Mononoke let out her anger toward Amagi, cursed him, and tried to ask why he had betrayed them, but before she could finish, Amagi crushed her head in one fell swoop. After that, Amagi explained to Shinji that freshness was even more critical with Mononoke than with humans, and added that he needed to devour their hearts before they had fully died and before their power scattered into the wind. He continued and said that many lives were there for the taking, and he would not waste even a single one of them. He began eating the heart of the female Mononoke, while saying that each and every one of them would be a step forward for him and his ambitions. Shinji's eyes could not help but show shock at what he was seeing, while Amagi asked him if he had made himself clear before urging him to leave because he was standing in his way. Shinji placed his thumb on the guard of his katana while agreeing, as if he had noticed the sinister aura of the situation. He said that Amagi did not have to tell him twice, and that he thought he would be dropping out now, while pointing out that he had never really been part of Amagi's little group in the first place, and that they had only happened to have a similar goal. While he was about to add that he did not really care about what Amagi was doing or what would happen to humanity, he stopped when he noticed that Amagi was not even listening to him, and was still continuing to eat the heart he was holding. A short while later, we returned to where Koga and Naruko were, and there, the sudden darkening of the sky caught their attention. Koga questioned what was happening, pointing out that it had suddenly become extremely dark. Rago informed him that it was Amagi's doing, which confused him. He explained that Amagi had used his power to create that space, and that it was connected to him. He added that if anything happened to Amagi, it was only natural that the effects of it would also manifest there. Koga was shocked by that and worriedly told Rago not to tell him that Amagi had gotten himself killed or something, causing Rago to call him a moron and point out that if that had happened, the entire space would have disappeared and taken them with it, which Koga also realized. Rago said that it had to be something else, something that would directly affect the very nature of Amagi's power. Before long, Rago realized something, and Koga noticed his reaction, so he asked what it was. Rago asked if he remembered correctly that Amagi had said he was going to meet with his compatriots. Koga wondered about that at first, but quickly agreed and said that he thought Amagi had said something about preparations and that he might take a while there. Rago became irritated when he learned that, and said in his mind that this was truly what Amagi had done. Amagi had really done what he was thinking. He called Koga after that and told him that the moment Amagi opened the barrier when he returned, he should take the woman and run as fast as he could, which confused Koga. Koga asked why he needed to run away like a coward, and who said Rago had the right to order him around. Because of that, Rago shouted at him and called him an idiot, before pointing out that if he did not do that, both he and Naruko would be eaten. Because of that, Koga questioned what Rago was saying about them being eaten. The portal opened, which caught their attention, while Rago asked Koga if he really knew nothing about Amagi's unique power. Amagi arrived, and now his appearance had changed. He looked much more terrifying and much stronger, while his horns and cloak had grown larger than before. Because of that, Koga became confused, while Rago said in his mind that he had already figured it out. Koga asked Amagi what that appearance of his was, and while he was still asking what had happened to that terrifying change in his aura, Amagi suddenly attacked and targeted Naruko, which completely shocked Koga. Amagi grabbed Naruko's body and lifted her up, while blood was already coming out of her mouth and tears were forming in her eyes. She tried to scream and ask for help, but after struggling a little, she was completely crushed and eaten by Amagi. Her blood and remaining hands splattered toward Koga while he was still completely stunned, and after Amagi did that, he even commented that she did not taste that bad. Rage overflowed in Koga, and he decided to use his power, causing him to bring out his large sword. He shouted at Amagi with overflowing anger while calling him a bastard. He charged at Amagi, ready to attack, but using only his cloak, Amagi blocked the swing of his sword. Koga shouted in anger and tried to push back Amagi's defense, but Amagi merely moved his hand slightly and easily repelled Koga. Koga felt that simple attack, causing him to groan. He landed and skidded away, while Amagi asked him what he thought he was doing. Koga threw the same question back at him and asked how he could do that to Naruko, while calling him a jerk. However, Amagi pointed out that he was not the one Koga was speaking to. It turned out that Rago had gone in front of Koga to protect him, so Amagi once again asked what he thought he was doing. Rago explained that he somewhat owed that boy because of what happened earlier, so he could not just sit back and watch while Amagi tried to eat him. Amagi questioned Rago's decision to try to repay his debt by offering his life, then commented that he found it difficult to understand. He asked what Rago thought he could do, pointing out that in his current state, he was not even enough of a barrier between Koga and himself, but Rago simply brushed that off. Rago asked if he was right that, in the end, what Amagi was after was the power he had left with Jiro, then added whether Amagi did not think that he could still be useful, which caught Amagi's attention. He pointed out that Amagi only had to boast that he had Rago and that he was still alive, and he could guarantee that Jiro would rush there at full speed. After that, he said that for a pragmatist like Amagi, was that not the simplest and most effective option? Amagi answered that Rago seemed to have great confidence in his own value, then asked what proof he had that things would happen as he said, to which Rago thought for a moment before answering that he did not really have much proof. But, he added, Jiro was simply that kind of boy. Amagi stared at him because of that, and before long, he said that he understood. After that, Rago pointed out to Koga that he had heard what he said. He ordered him to go to the bureau and inform them of the situation. Koga was shocked by this and shouted, asking if Rago was messing with him now. He asked why he had to do something like that. Because of that, Rago asked him whether he would rather stay there and let Amagi eat him, just like he had done to that woman. Because of that, Koga thought for a moment, while Rago continued and said that he was probably not so dense that he still had not realized the truth. He pointed out that in Koga's current state, he stood no chance against Amagi, which caught Koga's attention even more. He added that Koga was still young and told him not to let a sudden burst of anger get him killed. He said that the time would come when Koga would have to risk his life, but that time was not now. Koga moved, which caught Rago's attention. Koga pointed his blade at Amagi, causing Rago to shout at him to wait. After that, he stared seriously and gritted his teeth, while Amagi was still staring back at him, calm and composed. Koga swung his sword, but it turned out that he had only thrown it to the ground. He began walking toward the gate, and before he fully stepped out, he called out to Amagi and pointed out that, to him, Amagi was not a Mononoke. The only thing he was a monster. Rago thought about Koga calling Amagi a monster and commented that it seemed Koga no longer liked him. Amagi said that it was an inevitable response and explained that a being with power beyond what one could understand was difficult to accept, while Rago only stared at him. Amagi added that even so, they would now patiently wait for the Bureau's next move. Even in his original plan, at that point, he was supposed to have already eaten Rago and taken his power, then commented that this suited him just fine. However, he added that if everything had happened according to his original intention, he would not have had this final chance to speak with Rago. After that, he asked Rago whether he remembered when he was born, which confused Rago and made him ask what kind of question that was. He answered that he did not remember that, and pointed out whether Amagi had any idea how many centuries had passed since then. On Amagi's side, he said that he remembered it clearly. Even now, from time to time, he still returned to that moment in his memories. He explained that the sky he saw back then looked almost exactly the same as it did now. He said that when he finally gained a physical form, he opened his eyes for the first time, and what he saw was the pitch-black night sky dominated by the white circle of the full moon. He further explained that Mononoke like them had no parents or children. Surges of emotion, hatred, conviction. The thoughts and emotions of all living things drifted throughout the world, and sometimes the flow of those thoughts and emotions would swirl, converge, settle, gather together, and in that way, a Mononoke would be born. He said that from the very beginning, they were truly and completely alone. They were aberrations, lives separate from the natural laws that governed life. At their birth, they already had fully mature bodies and a small amount of general knowledge. Depending on what kind of emotions had formed them, they could even begin with a clear idea of their own identity. But in his case, he said, that particular feeling was weak, vague. After he became conscious of the world, he quickly made clothing for himself, something that would cover his nakedness. After that, he felt his stomach growl, then realized that it was hunger and that he needed to find something to eat and consume it. While walking, he heard the scream of a woman from far away. On the woman's side, she was currently being approached by a large mononoke. That mononoke grinned and, while drooling, said that she was soft and delicious. The woman pleaded and begged him to have mercy on her and just leave her alone, but the mononoke only laughed and told her not to worry and not to be afraid because he would take her to a happy place. After that, Amagi arrived at the scene, which caught both of their attention. The giant mononoke angrily asked who he was, while Amagi noticed that this being was one of his own kind. As for the woman, she asked him for help, and here, Amagi noticed that this woman was a human, which meant that she was from a weaker species compared to them. The mononoke said that he did not know him, but that place was his territory. He insisted that Amagi had entered his territory, and because of that, he would die. He threw a punch at Amagi after that, but before his fist could reach him, Amagi's eyes widened, and a short while later, the surroundings fell silent. The woman only stared at him, and it turned out that Amagi had already taken down the giant mononoke that charged at him and had eaten his heart. In his mind, he commented that the growling in his stomach had calmed down, and his power had also increased. However, the taste was not that good. The woman then caught his attention and called him her lord. She knelt and positioned herself as if praying, while apologizing for not knowing which mountain god he was, but said that because of his lordship's great help, her pitiful life had been saved. While crying, she pleaded to be allowed to offer her most heartfelt gratitude. After that, she repeatedly thanked him, while Amagi thought at that moment that, to humans, the mononoke were gods, beings that had to be feared and worshipped. The woman explained that if his lordship wished it, their poor village would gladly offer material thanks. She asked if she could humbly request the honor of knowing his lordship's name so that she could convey their praises to him. That night, he introduced himself to the woman and the villagers as Amagi. He explained that after that, through the natural flow of events, he became the patron god of that village. One day, several villagers went to his shrine and thanked him because their humble village had become more peaceful than before. They explained that it was only a small offering, but they had prepared gifts as a sign of their gratitude, and they prayed that it would be acceptable to him. After that, Amagi explained that he only learned later that the mononoke he had killed that night was the former patron god of the village. In the villagers' eyes, he had apparently been a detestable nuisance that they were glad to be rid of. However, he said that it seemed his narrow-mindedness and cruel rule were the reason why they feared the mononoke so greatly. They made sure to carry out all the proper rituals and show excessively humble respect. They built an impressive shrine for him, and they frequently and punctually offered rice and alcohol. In exchange, he protected the village from various threats: thieves, bandits, highwaymen, wandering samurai, other mononoke. He fought, he killed, he was thanked, and he was respected. His position as the protector of that village was not questioned, worshipped, and relied upon. He, to that village, was the absolute power against their complete helplessness. He added that as time passed, that unchanging truth became the foundation of the gradual formation of his identity. One night, while the woman he had saved before was giving him alcohol, she asked if she could ask him something, which he allowed. She asked whether he felt the urge to eat humans, which puzzled him. She explained that every time their previous master visited the village, it would always demand a young woman as a sacrifice. While trembling, she added that she was aware that it was far beyond her station to ask such a rude question, but admitted that she was concerned about it. When Amagi saw her reaction, he answered that it was indeed true that humans were an excellent source of nutrition for the mononoke, and that he had heard that human flesh strengthened their power and could even immediately heal their wounds. Perhaps, if he ate one, he might become addicted to it. But he added that, at that moment, humans did not seem that delicious to him. At least, not as delicious as the rice and sake being offered to him. Unless there was a dire need to do so, he could not see himself eating one. The woman smiled after hearing that answer. And here, the present Amagi explained that he had not said that in order to calm the woman down. At that time, that was truly what he honestly thought. He was still in the process of forming who he would become. His sense of self was still a chaotic mass of gray, neither pure white nor pure black. But eventually, that process would also come to an end. One night, Amagi was shown badly beaten and wounded, with arrows and a sword embedded in his body. He explained that a neighboring territory, which desired to expand its land, had begun a systematic attack. That was the first time he experienced losing in battle. Learning how weak he was had shaken his self-image as an absolute power. At that moment, he told the people that he had managed to drive back their vanguard, but he had not been able to completely destroy it. He expected that they still had another army that was no smaller than that vanguard, and they would likely attack again by daybreak. He added that in his current condition, even he would not be able to hold out against them again, which the village elder could not believe. One of the men told the elder that they needed to go out there and fight together with Amagi, but the elder called him a fool and explained that they were facing an enemy that even Amagi's power could barely defeat. He pointed out that none of them had any training and that they would only go out there to die. The man answered that they would all die anyway if they did nothing, and added that it would be better for them to stand and fight together for their village. He also said that even if they could not do much, they could at least stand beside Amagi. Amagi thought about that idea, while the difficulty of making a decision could be seen on the elder's face. But before long, the elder said that they did not have much of a choice and ordered the people to gather everyone. A short while later, the people returned to Amagi, now accompanied by a bound young woman, and said that they had prepared a sacrifice for him. They explained that through this, his wounds would heal, and by daybreak, they begged him to save their village once again. Amagi slowly approached the woman while the people prayed and repeatedly chanted his name. The poor woman was helpless as she cried and drooled because of the bandages in her mouth, while the burning torches crackled in the middle of the night. Amagi knelt down and carefully held the woman's chin, and there, his first taste of human flesh happened. In the present, Amagi added that the elder's decision had been completely correct. The village had been in danger of being destroyed, and fighting together would have meant many lives being lost. However, everyone had been saved because of the sacrifice of one. He added that they were saved because they, the weak, placed their fate in his hands, the hands of the strong. He pointed out that Koga had called him a monster, then commented that he was wrong, and declared that he was a true Mononoke. From now on, the term Mononoke would no longer mean a multiplicity of individuals. From now on, he said, that would become the name of a single, all-powerful being, himself. He said that he would stand as the ruler of all, and he would guide the world toward the proper future. That, he declared, was what a true Mononoke should be. After that, we shifted to Roran's side together with the Bureau of Espionage. He seemed extremely delighted as he said that there was a beautiful flower on his right, Ichika, and another beautiful flower on his left, Kasumi. He commented that perhaps those from the Bureau were not so bad after all. So Ichika questioned whether he was really saying that while in the exact condition he was currently in. They went deep into Aokigahara Forest, on the slopes of Mount Fuji, and there, Kasumi commented that there was a high chance this was the lair of his leader. However, she asked whether this Roran was absolutely sure that this was the right place. So Roran said how many times did he still need to tell her that, and pointed out that he would never even think of lying to her. Kasumi then said that if they discovered that Roran was tricking them, Ichika already knew what she would do, to which she agreed and said that she would cut that Mononoke into pieces, causing Roran to comment that this was a little extreme. Someone then called Director Kasumi through her communication device, and it turned out to be Himazuka. She asked her if she had found anything, to which Himazuka said yes. She informed her that their group had discovered a gate at the exact point Roran had described. However, she said that entry was negative because it had been sealed from the other side. Kasumi understood that and told them to examine everything they could examine and then return, to which Himazuka replied with a Roger. After that, Ichika seemed to have decided on something, then asked if Roran was ready to die with an irritated expression and a blade prepared, which greatly alarmed this Mononoke. He pointed out that he had said where the gate was, and it really was there, then added how was he supposed to know whether it was open or not. He also said what would even be the point if he tried some sort of half-assed deception about that. Kasumi turned toward the two of them, and in her mind, she commented that she was one step behind again. Amagi had probably predicted that they might try that kind of approach. She thought for a moment after that, and clicked her tongue in irritation as she was forced to call someone. It turned out that the one she called was Shiba, and she informed him that the gate was indeed there, but it was closed. Shiba commented that, well, Amagi had been wrong about his chances of obtaining Rago's power. It made sense that he would want to hide and heal his wounds for a while. Kasumi asked if Jiro had returned yet, to which he answered no. Shiba gave her a suggestion, asking why she did not leave some personnel behind to guard the gate and return to the office, which Kasumi considered, and they thanked each other. Fuyo commented that based on what she had heard, was it correct that there would be no surprise attack on Amagi's lair, to which Shiba agreed and said that it was not that surprising that he was too good to make finding him easy for them. Shiba turned to his left after that, and he saw Toshimasa sitting on a tree stump. Fuyo said that nearly 3 days had passed since Jiro entered that forest, and Toshimasa had barely moved since then. She said that even if ninjas took pride in their ability to endure without flinching, at that rate, he was going to collapse. Shiba thought for a moment, then took out another cigarette. He walked over to Toshimasa and suggested that he take a break, saying that he promised they would call him right away if anything happened. Toshimasa responded and asked Shiba why that had to happen. He asked whether it was their responsibility as the ones in charge, whether it was the fault of Mononoke like Rago and Amagi, or whether it was Jiro's fault for getting involved in all of it. He explained that Jiro had always gotten mixed up in those kinds of things ever since he was a child. He protected cats and dogs from local punks, protected the Mononoke from the bureau, and the other way around. He was always getting into trouble, sticking his neck out to save someone else. Every time, he faced things head-on like a complete idiot, and no matter how badly he was beaten and wounded, he never ran away. He let out a tired sigh and said that the boy was an utterly hopeless blockhead, while Shiba simply continued listening to him. Toshimasa clenched his hands even tighter and asked why Jiro was the only one who had to go through something like that. He asked Shiba what he needed to do to free his grandson. Shiba thought for a moment and tried to answer, but Fuyo suddenly called their names, which caught their attention. When they turned around, she pointed ahead of them and informed them that they were coming. From inside the deep forest, silhouettes could be seen walking toward them, and it turned out to be Ogre Lord Ibuki and her husband, Manjimuru, who was carrying Jiro on his shoulder. They set Jiro down, and Toshimasa caught him while sitting on the ground. After that, Shiba called the bureau and instructed them to prepare the medic squad for an incoming patient. Fuyo asked Ibuki whether Jiro's training had gone well and whether he could now control Rago's power, to which Ibuki asked her why she was even asking when they already knew the answer. She pointed out that it had been impossible from the very beginning and explained that training a human child to control the power of a Mononoke, especially power as massive as Rago's, in only 3 days was never going to happen. She informed them that Jiro could only use that power safely for at most half an hour, and that was when he was calm. Put him in a fierce battle, and he would not even reach half of that, to which Fuyo added that in other words, Jiro's effective limit was 15 minutes. Toshimasa then asked what would happen if he tried to use it for longer than that, to which Ibuki said that this was a good question. She answered and said that Rago's power could consume his mind, drive him mad, and turn him into an inhuman half-thing. Or his body might give out first, all of his organs could fail, and he could die right on the spot. She pointed out that whatever happened, he would not come out of it unscathed, which deeply shocked Toshimasa. After that, Jiro groaned, which caught his grandfather's attention. When Jiro saw Shiba, he commented that it was about time he got there, to which Shiba said sorry that he had taken so long. He asked if Ibuki had already told them everything, to which Shiba agreed. After that, Jiro apologized to Toshimasa. He explained that he had given everything he could, but in the end, he could still barely half-ass it at best, causing Toshimasa to say his name. He continued and said that he knew Toshimasa would probably get angry at what he was about to say, but he still said that he really could not just sit down and stay out of this. He declared that he would save Rago, and that he would beat Amagi up. Toshimasa was shocked by that, so Jiro said that he knew his gramps would ask what a fool like him thought he could do. He pointed out that it had not been that long ago that he had been convinced he could handle all of that by himself. But after all that chaos, even someone with a skull as thick as his could take a hint. In the end, he said, he was nothing but a dumb kid who could not manage anything on his own. So he apologized and asked if they thought they could help him. All of them looked at him with gentle smiles because of what he had shown them. Shiba agreed with that and said that he thought they could. A short while later, Ibuki said goodbye and said that she and her husband would return to the forest. She added that with what was happening now, it pained her to say it, but technically, both sides were still under the agreement to leave each other alone as much as possible, to which Shiba said that she should not worry about it, and that the two of them had already done more than enough to help. After that, Ibuki told Jiro that she had high hopes for him, and urged him to show how far that reckless bravado of his could take him, to which Jiro proudly answered that she could count on him to do that. He waved goodbye to his temporary teachers. Someone called Shiba on his cell phone, and when he took it out, it turned out to be Usami. Shiba answered the call, where Usami happily thanked goodness and said that her call had finally gotten through. Shiba asked what was happening, pointing out that she sounded extremely worried, and then asked if something had happened there. Usami answered that he could certainly say that, and informed him that they had an emergency on their hands. She told them to hurry and return to the port immediately. We then shifted to the area near the port, and here, it was shown that everything had gone quiet. While Kusumi was speaking with Toshimasa, Tokieda called her and informed her that her requests were complete. All civilians had been evacuated, and every road leading into and out of the specified area had been blocked. Kusumi praised him with a well done, and then told him that next, he should make sure all information was correctly spun and find all eyewitnesses and have their memories adjusted, to which Tokieda complied. On Shiba and his team's side, while looking at the ocean, he commented on who would have thought they would do that right within sight of their headquarters, saying that it seemed they were not too worried about being subtle. It turned out that a mysterious gate had appeared above the ocean near the port. Usami asked Shiba why on earth they would choose to do it there, to which he answered that they had probably heard from Rago where their offices were. He pointed out that if it suddenly appeared there, they would not be able to help but notice it immediately, and that would make it extremely easy to lure Jiro straight to them. Jiro then arrived and questioned the idea that the enemy was calling him out, then shouted that this was fine, which caught their attention. He said that he had been planning to bust into their den as soon as possible anyway, and that it was better that they had rolled out the red carpet there instead of causing trouble in town. Shiba noticed that he had found a spare set of espionage gear, then commented that it was perfect, so Jiro told him that the old man, Tokieda, had gotten a new set for him when he asked. Ichika mockingly said that he made it sound like it was nothing, and asked if he knew how much those outfits cost. Jiro became confused and asked if those things were expensive. Shiba answered that they were sort of expensive and explained that with one of those, they could probably buy a cutting-edge fighter jet for around the same amount, which greatly shocked Jiro. He could not believe it, but then asked how much a fighter jet cost. Someone let out a tired sigh and asked him if he did not have even the tiniest bit of imagination, then told him to think about it for a moment. All of them turned toward him while he added that, of course, it would depend on the model, but at the cheapest, it would still cost at least 10 billion yen. It turned out to be Reiji, and he was already wearing his espionage suit as well. He apologized for his tardiness and said that he was now fully healed and ready to return to action. Shiba asked if he was sure he was feeling all right, to which he agreed and said that he was ready to move. He happily said that he did everything he could to heal as quickly as possible so he could fight alongside Ichika again, making Ichika feel a little uncomfortable and simply say okay, while Jiro was still stunned by the fact that he was wearing 10 billion yen. After that, someone shouted from the rooftop of a warehouse and angrily asked what Jiro was doing. It turned out to be Rorin, and he pointed at Jiro while shouting that he should get his hands off his bride that instant, while threatening that he would kill him. Few told him to be quiet while kicking him, and asked if he could not work more quietly. Reiji asked what that was, commenting that it looked like a mononoke, so Shiba told him that things had happened. He explained that Rorin was a mononoke helping them out for now, and that he was currently maintaining a barrier to keep that area sealed off and safe. While looking at how few scolded Rorin, Reiji commented that he got the impression Rorin was being made to help rather than doing it out of the goodness of his heart. After that, Usami said that be that as it may, it had been quite a while since the whole team had last gathered together like that, to which Shiba asked if she thought they should prepare a party to celebrate Reiji's recovery. Ichika said that she did not think now was a good time for parties, to which Reiji agreed and said that they could just save that for after they finished that mission. When it was Jiro's turn to speak, he did not make any sound, causing Asami to shout at him and ask what he was doing. She pointed out that they had just created a nice flow and a good rhythm in the conversation. He apologized and said that he was just curious about the gate that had appeared in the area. He explained that there was something about the insects flying around it. Some men then began shouting, asking the individual who had arrived who he was, while a superior ordered everyone to take up arms, which caught their attention. Kasumi and the others looked at the one who had arrived, and it turned out to be Koga, who came out from a manifested gate. The soldiers shouted at him not to move, to which Koga clicked his tongue in irritation and called them idiots. They ordered him to kneel and put his hands above his head. Jiro and the others quickly ran toward the area, and when they arrived, he and Koga locked eyes, and both of them quickly remembered each other. Koga began walking closer to Jiro, so some of the soldiers there shouted at him not to move. When he got right in front of Jiro, he pressed his forehead against Jiro's forehead, and the two of them began pushing against each other. Jiro said that he did not know what Koga was doing there, but he did not have time to play with him right now. If Koga wanted to fight, he could come back later. In Koga's mind, he remembered what Rago had said about Jiro's personality, and because of that, he simply walked past Jiro and bumped into him instead. Jiro became irritated with him, but Koga immediately just told him to shut up. He made Jiro come with him and said that they needed to talk. He walked away from them, while Jiro wondered what was up with that, and Shiba thought that maybe it was puberty. He added that, well, whether human or Mononoke, the first thing they could always do was talk. If they could talk things through, then they should do that. After that, all of them entered one of the facilities there, and here, Jiro informed them of everything he and Koga had discussed. One of those things was Amagi's power, cannibalism. Kasumi commented that to think Amagi had that kind of unique power, while Jiro became annoyed and pointed out that he had done a lot of terrible things. He then asked Koga if he was saying that on his side. The only ones left were Amagi and Rago. Koga did not answer and only leaned against the pillar by the entrance of the building, so Jiro shouted at him in irritation to speak, then asked why he was standing so far away. Jiro got pissed off by that and commented on what his problem was, while Shiba told him to calm down. He said that, at the very least, it seemed Koga was telling the truth, and he bet that Koga was not really sure what to do right now either. Kasumi said that whatever the situation was, the intel Koga had given them was important. That meant the possibility of ambushes or diversions was low, and they could focus their forces there at the port without worrying that another attack might happen somewhere else. While she was just about to say that she would call for backup now, a soldier quickly entered and alerted them that there was trouble, while asking them to come immediately. Outside the facility, the Onmitsu were already fighting, and the enemies they were facing there were flying insect-like monsters. Himizuka quickly informed Director Kasumi that multiple airborne bugs were attacking the west side of the port, and while doing so, one of the bugs managed to get close to her, but she quickly repelled it with an extremely powerful kick, causing its body to be destroyed. She added that they had intercepted them and were currently in combat, but they needed backup, so she requested that Kasumi call for reinforcements. While that was happening, Inui, who was on the east side, informed them that they had the same problem there. He explained that those things were swarming out of the portal and that there seemed to be no end to them. Fortunately, he added, one-on-one, they were all cannon fodder, but there were just far too many of them. He pointed out that if that continued for long, it was possible that one of them might slip through and get past the barricade. We returned to Shiba's team, and here, a soldier observing the gate informed them that the airborne bugs were swarming from both minor side gates, and told Kasumi that it would only be a matter of time before they headed in their direction. Shiba said that while Amagi waited for them to send Jiro inside, he had sent out a force to keep them from getting their plan together. Jiro then asked what they would do in that case. Were they going to fight those things? To which Shiba emphasized that yes, they were going to fight them. However, Jiro's power was on a timer. They could not afford to let him use it there. He would go straight inside that gate and head directly to Amagi. After that, he ordered Reiji and Ichika to guard Jiro until he reached that main gate. Ichika said that they would be glad to do that, while Jiro asked how they were supposed to get out there. Fuyo jumped down from the rooftop and said that this was where she came in. Jiro questioned her and asked what she could do, so she scoffed and asked what he thought she was. She pointed out that she was an immortal being with power far beyond the knowledge of mortals, and declared that she was a Mononoke. She activated her power and placed it on the bodies of the three of them, and explained that lifting 2 or 3 skinny young humans and making them float in the air was easier than taking candy from a baby. Jiro, Ichika, and Reiji began to float, which shocked all of them, while Fuyo explained that she would concentrate on keeping the three of them airborne, then informed them that she would leave control of their direction and speed to them. After that, Shiba spoke to Jiro and told him to listen. He explained that because of that swarm, it had become difficult for them to coordinate a full-scale assault, but Jiro was still their ace in the hole. He told him not to use any of his power until he had gotten past the gate, and to save it for taking down Amagi. He told him to trust his guards to get him there. Jiro agreed with that. Shiba then told Ichika and Reiji that Jiro was in their hands now, which they also responded to with a Roger. Shiba said that was good and urged them to begin. And after that, the three Onmitsu moved to carry out their plan. In the area near the port, the sound of gunfire echoed. On the side of one Onmitsu, while he was shooting at a Mononoke, he worriedly wondered how many of these monsters there were. He cursed in irritation, and to his great alarm, his gun suddenly jammed. He could do nothing but scream as the Mononoke charged at him. But fortunately, an individual arrived there and easily destroyed the monster's body before it could get close to him. It turned out to be Toshimasa, and he let out an exasperated sound. He questioned the Onmitsu's extreme panic against a minor Mononoke, and said that it seemed the Bureau's talent drain was even worse than he had imagined. He asked who could afford to stay retired at a time like this. He urged that personnel to move again. He told him to get his head screwed on right and go back out there, to which the Onmitsu agreed and thanked him. Toshimasa let out a breath after that and looked at the gate, then told his grandson not to even dare think of dying before him. After that, we shifted to the trio, and here, they were quickly moving toward the entrance of the gate. While flying, Jiro noticed something above him. A Mononoke tried to charge at him and bite him, but Ichika quickly neutralized it with her swift slashes, easily cutting it into pieces. She let out a tired sigh and asked Jiro what he was even doing. She told him to stop zoning out over there, and reminded him that he needed to get through the gate. Jiro was irritated by this and talked back, saying that she could be a little nicer, but his attention was quickly drawn by a swarm of enemies in front of them, so he immediately pointed it out to Ichika and told her to look out. Ichika was surprised by the number of Mononoke that were suddenly behind her, but before they could even get close to her, a straight horizontal slash cut through these demons. Before Ichika could even move, the bodies of those Mononoke disintegrated after that attack. After that, Reiji asked her if she was all right, causing Jiro to irritably ask if he was not going to ask whether he was okay. Reiji then sheathed his sword and said that Ichika had better be careful out there, while pointing out that their mission was to make sure the baggage was safely delivered to the drop-off point, causing Jiro to angrily shout at him and ask who he was calling baggage. Because of that, Jiro cursed in frustration, saying that it was annoying that he could not do anything, to which Ichika commented that it seemed like the perfect opportunity for him to learn some restraint. A short while later, Reiji told them that they were not far from the drop-off. However, he added, it seemed that those creatures would not stop charging at them. Ichika said that trying to take all of them down was a losing proposition, which made Jiro ask what they were going to do then. Ichika commented that it seemed they no longer had a choice, which caught Jiro's attention. Reiji explained that while they were doing that, Jiro would make a beeline for the gate as fast as he could, and Ichika added that she and Reiji would hold off as many enemies as they could. They would draw the enemy's attention toward them higher up in the sky, while Jiro would stay low, skim the water's surface, and try not to get surrounded, which Jiro understood. After that, he told them not to slack off and get themselves killed, to which Ichika answered that this was her line, before telling him not to be stupid while calling him an idiot, to which Reiji said that there was no time for that, then urged them to move. The three of them fist-bumped and quickly continued with their plan, where Reiji and Ichika charged toward the enemies, while Jiro flew low as fast as he could toward the gate. As he got closer, a Mononoke managed to block him and move in front of him. Because of this, he cursed in irritation and began preparing to attack. He apologized to Shiba because he thought that it looked like he would have to use his power early. However, a fast individual caught up to them while running on top of the water, and suddenly, he easily sliced the Mononoke in two. It turned out that Koga was the one who did that. He skidded on the surface of the water after that attack, while shock and confusion were clearly visible on Jiro's face. Koga prepared to attack again while seemingly targeting Jiro, causing Jiro to ask why and tell him to wait. This confused Jiro even more, but before he could tell Koga to stop, Koga threw his sword toward him, but it turned out to be aimed at the Mononoke behind Jiro. He easily defeated that creature too, while Jiro was left speechless. Jiro called Koga by name and looked at him, but after all that, Koga suddenly flipped him off, which irritated him. But his anger quickly vanished when he noticed that Koga was actually helping him cross over to the gate. Jiro smirked when he noticed that, and then the two of them moved again toward their respective targets. At full speed, Jiro flew toward the gate, but while doing so, a massive swarm of Mononoke began to appear and chase after him. This worried him and pushed him to go even faster. He reached the entrance of the gate, getting closer to it with each passing second, while the monsters behind him were already preparing to bite him. By the narrowest margin, he managed to leave them on the other side of the gate and enter it to reach Amagi. He rolled on the ground after entering, then made a cool pose while skidding across the ground. His gaze quickly turned toward Amagi, who was waiting at the entrance of his base, while Rago was trapped inside some kind of sphere and the full moon could be seen above him. Amagi commented that it seemed Jiro had made it there unharmed, and that this was truly impressive. He said that he had been waiting for him, then called him by his full name, while Jiro only stared at him seriously. Shock was also clearly visible on Rago's face. Jiro called out to Rago and said that it looked like he had found himself a cozy little spot to hang out in, causing Rago to shout at him and ask what about that looked cozy. Jiro stood up straight and told Rago not to get so prickly, and while stretching his joints, he said that he would get him out of there in just a second. Rago smirked because of that, while Amagi decided to stand as well, which caught his attention. While walking toward this Mononoke, Jiro said that before they did that, Amagi should let him ask one thing. He asked why Amagi had eaten all of his allies, to which Amagi answered that it was a foolish question, asking back whether it was not obvious. Amagi asked Jiro which he would rather have, 100 bullets or a missile. He pointed out that concentrating power into one large mass was more efficient than scattering it across smaller units. He said that was all there was to it. After that, Jiro asked him why he hated humans, to which Amagi questioned that thought and said that he no longer felt hatred. He simply could not accept the world in its current form. A world ruled by humans, by the weak. Jiro commented that this was crap, while Amagi said that it was logical. Jiro clicked his tongue in irritation while fixing his suit, and in an instant, he suddenly vanished from Amagi's front, which shocked him. After that, Amagi felt a punch hit his face, while shock was still clearly visible on him. He stepped to the side to keep himself from falling, and Jiro reappeared and informed him that this was called some kind of camel mode, or whatever. After that, he pointed out that even that weak human had the power to punch him right in his smug face, while Amagi spat after receiving that punch. Amagi's aura became serious, and he commented on how childish Jiro was. He said that humans like him had abandoned their claws and fangs, and instead relied on tools and trinkets to pretend they were strong. He attacked using his cloak while commenting on how utterly disgraceful and dishonorable that was, causing Jiro to be sent flying after being hit in the chest. With that one attack, he tore apart the espionage suit Jiro was wearing. After Jiro landed back on the ground, Amagi added that he had no interest in any petty sideshow tricks, and that the metal trinkets he was wearing were not the power he desired. Jiro then called out to Rago, which caught his attention. While removing what was left of his suit, he apologized to him and explained that he was going to borrow a little of his power. Rago and Amagi looked at him because of that, and he began transforming in front of them. Before long, he created his own suit using Rago's power. Amagi was intrigued by this and commented that he had thought Jiro would simply go wild and rely on brute force. He said that it seemed Jiro had managed to learn even a small amount of control over that power in such a short time. Jiro let out a sigh of relief, and while Amagi was still mockingly asking if he had found someone to teach him how to do that, in an instant, Jiro managed to close the distance between them. Amagi's eyes widened in shock, while Jiro apologized because he did not have much time left. He pointed out that, just as Amagi had said, they should go straight to the main attraction. He unleashed a right straight into Amagi's body using his speed, and when it connected, his attack created an enormous shockwave that shook the entire area. Smoke filled Amagi's surroundings after that, while Jiro stood there catching his breath. However, Amagi began to laugh, which caught Jiro's attention, and he commented that he remembered that feeling. It turned out that he had wrapped himself in something like a cocoon, and that was what Jiro had struck. He asked himself how many centuries had passed since he last felt that power flow over him. After that, his cocoon began to crack and fall apart, while he added that this was beyond what he had expected from Jiro, and that it meant a little more work for him. But strangely enough, he did not find it unpleasant. A short while later, his cocoon completely disintegrated, and he told Jiro that he would face him with his full strength. Amagi's new form was shown after that, where he now had fierce-looking armor and his horns were more pronounced. He then urged Jiro to charge at him and said that now, the fight was truly beginning. He asked which side was stronger, humans or the Mononoke. He said that they should settle that question once and for all. In that moment, both of them vanished from where they stood because of their speed, and they began exchanging blows while flying through different parts of the area, causing damage to the gate, the ground, and even the house behind them. Amagi smiled as he faced Jiro and Rago's controlled power, and they did not stop attacking, trading blow after blow with each movement. Unfortunately, one of Amagi's punches struck Jiro's body, causing him to be sent flying into the ground and break it from the heavy impact. While lying down, Jiro cursed in irritation, but before he could even move again, Amagi quickly descended and stepped on his face. Amagi told him to allow him to make one thing clear. This was not a duel between two individuals. This was a war between two species. In their fists and in every blow they exchanged, millions upon millions of lives were at stake. While Amagi was still speaking, commenting on Jiro's sloppiness and on who humanity had placed its faith in, Jiro managed to counter using the scarf part of his Mononoke armor. He prepared to attack again and shouted at Amagi to shut up already. While Amagi was still in the air, Jiro charged toward him with incredible speed, but Amagi managed to get back on his feet and parry his attack. He commented that this was much better, and while they exchanged blows again, he told Jiro to give in to desperation. He told him to fight with all his strength and have no fear of death. He told him to keep pushing forward, even as the thin patina of his control began to smoke and burn. He told him to embrace the flame, to wield it as his own power, while black smoke rose around him as an aura. After that, he asked how much longer Jiro's humanity would survive that heat. 10 more minutes, or only 5. Following that, while preparing to unleash an extremely powerful attack, he said that no matter how long it took, the moment Jiro's will faltered before that flame would be the moment he won. Amagi then punched straight at Jiro's body, which Jiro blocked, but he immediately opened his palm, and an orb of enormous energy began compressing in the center of it, before it unleashed an extremely powerful energy blast point blank into Jiro's body. On Rago's side, he shouted Jiro's name in worry, while the area became filled with extremely thick smoke. While looking at the aftermath of that attack, Amagi commented that he knew and was aware that this was not enough to kill Jiro. Now, he said, Jiro was no longer merely a human possessed by a Mononoke. He pointed out that Jiro was a human vessel filled to the brim and overflowing with Mononoke power. After that, it was shown that half of Jiro's body was beginning to transform into the beast he was trying to control, while Amagi added that he was a black beast dangerously standing on the line between one and the other. He pointed out that the moment Jiro lost his balance and the power swallowed him, in other words, the moment he became one of them, he then added with a grin that it would be time to eat. We went back to a few seconds earlier, where Amagi was asking what the problem was and pointed out that Jiro's attacks had become simple. He challenged him to try harder than that. He told him to grasp his power with more confidence and arrogance. He told him to destroy his enemies without a trace of mercy and prove to everyone that his might made right. He said that was the proper way to do it, the way they did it. After that, he unleashed his compressed energy blast toward Jiro. When the smoke cleared, Amagi commented upon seeing Jiro's appearance that Jiro looked truly terrifying now. On Jiro's side, it was shown here that his appearance had changed and become more feral and enraged, like a beast ready to pounce. Amagi added that it was to the point where he thought the word human no longer suited Jiro. He said that it seemed there was no longer any need to continue fighting and that it was time. Amagi prepared his right hand, and when he aimed it at Jiro, he said that he would take his heart now, then thanked him. However, something caught his attention on Jiro's side, and it was because Jiro had started creating his own compressed energy ball in his mouth. The problem was, before he could release it, Amagi quickly moved right in front of him and caught the blast he released while letting out an exasperated sound. Jiro was completely shocked when that happened. Amagi commented that, in that case, Jiro still had some strength left to struggle. After that, he said that unfortunately, it seemed it was a little too late for Jiro to try playing his trump card. He threw Jiro's attack right back into his face, causing him to be blown away and knocked down. Rago shouted his name again in worry. He became irritated at Amagi and ordered him to let him out of that prison right now. He told him not to try doing anything to Jiro. He said that if Amagi even tried to touch him one more time, he himself would pull Amagi's throat out of his neck. He shouted at him again with overwhelming anger, but Amagi ignored him and merely said that he had been wondering for quite some time. He pointed out to Jiro that Jiro had already done so much to hinder and ruin his plans, and yet for some reason, he had never been able to feel anger or hatred toward him. But he added that he thought he had finally found the reason. He explained that even though they walked different paths, on an intrinsic level, he and Jiro were the same. They had power, and because of that, they were feared. Some cast them out, drove them away, and hunted them. Others came to them, relied on them, and worshipped them. But whichever case it was, they had no choice but to use their power. He further explained that when humans learned of Amagi's defeat, he was certain they would be greatly disheartened. Some would even place all the responsibility on Jiro and blame him for his inadequacy. But Amagi had fought him directly, and he knew what Jiro had done. After that, he asked Jiro to let him be the only one to praise his efforts. Following this, he prepared his hand again and praised Jiro, saying that he had done well to make it that far. He placed his hand on Jiro's chest and said that he deserved his rest. He said, while slowly crushing Jiro's chest, that he would bear his life with honor. The sound of cracking echoed around them as Amagi said that Jiro had nothing left to worry about and urged him to sleep. Amagi's eyes widened, and he said farewell to Jiro while calling him his compatriot and continuing to crush his chest. However, on Jiro's side, he suddenly gritted his teeth, and in an instant, his scarf struck Amagi's right arm. Following this, he opened his mouth and quickly concentrated an energy blast. Amagi's eyes widened in shock as the burst gradually grew stronger, and before long, Jiro released an extremely powerful energy blast at point-blank range. The blast flew toward the shrine behind them and went straight in Rago's direction, which greatly alarmed him. The blast left enormous destruction after it struck, and a great amount of debris flew through the air because of the explosion. Smoke surrounded the area after all of that, while Jiro managed to stand again, though it seemed he was still not in his right mind. Because of that, Amagi thought that perhaps what he had done was an unconscious reflex. It was then shown that because of that attack, Amagi's entire left hand had been severed, and he thought that this was not quite right, because perhaps pure fighting instinct was a more fitting thing to call it. After that, he said that whichever it was, it had been a very impressive dying blow, and he had almost forgotten what that feeling was like. Having his arm severed reminded him. Two warriors facing each other directly, pouring all of their will and soul into a battle to the death. That, he said, was what being alive used to mean. Jiro then pointed at him as though he wanted to say something, but a short while later, he suddenly collapsed on his own, as if he had run out of energy. Amagi noticed that his power was beginning to fragment, and it looked like he had finally died. However, he began thinking about Jiro's face, while asking himself what that gesture had meant. His eyes widened in shock when he realized something, and he quickly turned his gaze toward Rago. When he turned around, he saw the sphere where Rago had been trapped earlier, and now it was broken, with Rago no longer inside it. After that, he heard Rago's voice, saying who would have thought that being utterly powerless could actually be useful. He said that even for someone like Amagi, if his mind was on something else, it was not surprising that he would not notice. He clarified his point, saying that a simple, normal cat had passed beside him. That was all there was to it, and it turned out that he was already behind Amagi. Amagi told him not to do anything, but Rago only smirked while standing on top of Jiro. Amagi quickly turned around again as Rago told Jiro in an exasperated tone that had they not already gone through that exact scenario before, then called him a moron. He told Jiro not to make him repeat the same thing over and over again, and then urged him to move already. Before Amagi could even react, Rago had possessed Jiro again and shouted at him to wake up. Because of that, an enormous dark beam rose into the air again, causing a powerful gust of wind and shockwave to spread through the surroundings. The area was once again surrounded by smoke because of that, and before long, Jiro's voice could be heard coughing and cursing because of what he felt. Rago greeted him good morning while calling him partner, and asked him how it felt to be awake again. Jiro wondered about that and asked if Rago really needed to ask, then answered that he felt like total crap. He also pointed out in irritation that his clothes had exploded again. Rago told him to stop complaining and asked if he realized that he had almost vaporized him too. Jiro questioned that and said what if Rago was the one who stopped complaining. He explained that it was a little dangerous, but things turned out fine in the end, to which Rago agreed and pointed out that yes, in the end, and that it was thanks to him. After that, he asked how about Jiro show a little gratitude for his quick thinking, while calling him a dumb kid, to which Jiro shouted no way and said that Rago was the one who should be thanking him, while calling him a useless fuzzball. It was then shown that the scar on Jiro's body had completely disappeared. He remembered something and then apologized to Amagi about one thing. He explained that he had tried so many different things, but in the end, it seemed they had only returned to square one, and now he and Rago were together as a duo again. Amagi did not speak for a few moments, but then he commented that the more he faced the two of them, the more foolish he felt. But because of them, he had learned something. He prepared the condensed energy in his hand and said that in all things, simplicity was best. He raised his right hand, and the energy exploded, creating a giant spear-like weapon above him. He explained that this was the way he used to do things. If he could not eat them, then the answer was simple. He would erase them with power stronger than theirs. Jiro sarcastically said oops, and commented that it looked like they had finally pissed him off. He asked Rago if he still remembered how to do that, to which Rago scoffed and asked who Jiro thought he was talking to. He pointed out that, just so Jiro knew, he would not be gentle with him, to which Jiro said that he'd better not and told him not to hold back. The ground cracked from the sheer size of the attack Amagi was preparing as he took a step. He gathered his strength and threw the giant energy spear toward Jiro and Rago with full force. When it was about to hit, Jiro jumped to a certain height and then used the spear as a stepping stone to jump even higher. He flew high into the air, and while airborne, the two of them spoke, planning their attack. Jiro prepared his arm as he explained what Rago wanted to do, where they would use every remaining drop of power the two of them had, both body and soul, and he would literally punch him with it. When Jiro swung his fist, his entire body transformed into the giant Rago monster they had fought in the past, but this time, they were the ones in control. Amagi's eyes widened in shock as their fist gradually approached his body. His punch landed on the ground, causing enormous destruction, and the force behind it shook the surroundings. Someone then landed on the head of this creature, and it turned out to be Jiro. He caught his breath and commented that even though he was used to Mononoke power, this still was not something he could do for long. It also turned out that Rago himself had become that monster, as he irritably asked Jiro where he thought he was sitting, to which Jiro shouted at him to shut up and said that Rago was always riding on his head anyway, so this was just payback. After that, they returned to the situation, and Jiro asked what he thought had happened to Amagi, to which Rago answered who knew and explained that he did feel that the blow had definitely hit. Because of that, Jiro shouted Amagi's name and asked if he was still alive over there. He explained that he had gone through so much trouble because of Amagi, but because of him, he had also learned one thing. He asked if Amagi knew what that was, then explained that the thing was that two were stronger than one. He asked Amagi what his opinion was on that, while Rago noticed something, then asked in disbelief not to tell him that this was the only thing Jiro had learned, to which Jiro became confused and said yes, that was it. Just as he was about to ask if Rago had a problem with that, an enormous surge of energy flowed from Amagi's location, which caught their attention. He said that he understood that, then commented that this was a good point and did make logical sense. However, he added that if this was the case, Then this battle was not 2 against 1. He transformed again, now with a massive body and many tentacles with heads emerging from them, and pointed out that it was the 2 of them against him and his 108 compatriots, before declaring that because of that, he was the winner. All of his tentacles flew with incredible speed and tried to strike Rago and Jiro. Fortunately, Rago managed to move and dodge, but the tentacles did not stop charging even after that attack, and they flew toward them again. They successfully struck Rago. He cursed in anger and explained that he was blocking them, but they were still eating away pieces of his power with every hit. He called Amagi a bastard and commented that at this rate, Amagi would eat them little by little until they died. Jiro calmed him down and told him not to panic. He prepared his right fist and told Rago that he would fly toward Amagi, while ordering Rago to just lend him a hand. Rago questioned that plan and asked how and what he was planning, to which Jiro asked if he could not guess. He pointed out that it was the same as before. He jumped into the air and said that he would go straight toward Amagi and punch him right in the face, which caught Rago's attention. Amagi called him a fool and asked if he was willingly making himself a target. If that was the case, then fine, and he would eat Jiro's body while eating Rago's power. But before he could finish what he was saying, his eyes widened in shock when he saw Rago right behind Jiro, ready to attack. Rago punched Jiro's feet, and using that boost, Jiro flew with tremendous speed toward Amagi while raising his powered-up knuckle. Shock was still clearly visible on Amagi's face, but he only smirked before catching Jiro's straight punch, which managed to dig into him and pierce through to his back. The seriousness on Jiro's face could be seen as he did this, while Amagi began coughing up blood. In an instant, Amagi's massive body also shattered and crumbled apart as if it were nothing. The 2 of them both fell to the ground after that, causing Rago to shout in worry, and he quickly ran toward Jiro. He returned to his cat form and checked on Jiro, who was slightly weakened and exhausted while trying to stand. Jiro sat upright and laughed a little, then commented that this was awful, that it hurt so much, and that he thought he was going to die again. Rago called him an idiot and asked if he could think of a plan that was not stupid and crazy. A foot then stepped out from the crater Rago had made with his attack, and it turned out to be Amagi, back in his normal form, now with a large hole in his chest and his left arm severed. He said that victory belonged to them, and while lighting a cigarette, he commented that it was unfortunate, but it seemed his grand plan ended there. However, he added that his belief had still been proven true. He had lost for only one reason. The 2 of them were stronger, and he was weaker. That was all there was to it. Suddenly, the ground began to crack and break apart, which shocked them. Amagi explained that this world was about to collapse, and that it would vanish along with his final breath. He told the 2 of them that if they would rather not join him on that final journey, he suggested that they hurry out through the gate and return to their friends. Amagi's body began to disintegrate, and while this was happening, he said that if fate was kind, they would find a new opponent to fight, an enemy they would conquer and destroy through pure power. And that would continue again and again, proving to everyone that their strength was what made them right. He told Jiro to be strong, and said that if he ever had to lose, he hoped he would at least lose to someone stronger than him. After that, he said that he would be watching him from hell. He completely disintegrated, and the destruction around them worsened even more. Rago shouted at Jiro to move. He said that they needed to leave, or they would die too. Jiro stared intently at the surroundings as they slowly collapsed, and before long, he began running even though he was struggling greatly. He forced himself to move and reach the gate, but before he could get to it, he collapsed and fell to his knees, so Rago shouted at him. He pointed out that the gate was right in front of him and urged him to show even more grit. Using all of his strength, Jiro tried to move again. He managed to stand once more and walk. He tried to reach the gate as he slowly got closer to it, and the floor behind him crumbled away, and fortunately, hands suddenly reached out to him, and they seemed to belong to Reiji and Ichika. They successfully saved him and pulled him out of the gate, and after that, everything went dark around him as Jiro explained that at that moment, he had blacked out. After that, he explained that the next thing he knew, he was already in a hospital bed. Asami was there, and he did not know whether it was because she had not slept or because of all her tears, but she looked pitiful. Somehow, she managed to say that he had been asleep for 3 whole days. He added that after that, she started repeatedly saying thank goodness and thank you. He commented that he was not really used to that kind of thing, so he did not know what to say, but it also felt pretty nice. When he finally woke up completely, the blurry memories of Reiji and Ichika pulling him out of the gate before it fully collapsed slowly returned to him. He also somewhat remembered that his shoulders hurt a lot for some reason, but he thought he should probably thank them for their help too. He continued the story and said that 2 days had passed since he woke up. He was told that everything that had happened there at the pier was explained to the public as a large-scale warehouse fire. It was somewhat surprising and somewhat not surprising that the Bureau had actually demolished a lot of warehouses to make the story believable. But, he said, not everything was completely over yet. There were still some loose ends left, especially the Mononoke. Some decided to stay with the Bureau, like Rorin, while others suddenly disappeared, like Koga, and he was sure there were still others out there who had not been eaten by Amagi and did not like humans, like Shinji. There was also the whole discussion about what would happen to him and Rago. He added that for now, they were hanging out alone at Division 2 headquarters with orders to watch the place. While he was writing this report on the laptop, it suddenly froze just as he was about to explain what everyone else was doing. Because of that, he cursed in irritation and pointed out that the stupid piece of junk laptop had frozen on him again. He also poured his frustration out on Shiba, calling him stupid because he had ordered him to write a report as an excuse to clear his mind and organize his memories, then commented that it was dumb. He compared it to submitting a report that was even worse to read than a high school girl's diary entry. Rago laughed and pointed out that him being aware of how awful it was only made it worse. He brushed that off and said that it was an excuse to rest and relax for a while, then asked why he did not just enjoy it, to which Jiro became irritated and commented that maybe that was true for Rago, then said that cats like him really had such easy lives. Rago noticed something and asked if he was right that it was still bothering Jiro, causing Jiro to ask what he meant. So Rago pointed out that he was referring to Amagi's final words. The words Amagi had said about how, if fate was kind, he would find a new opponent to fight, an enemy he would conquer and destroy through pure power, and that it would continue again and again, proving to everyone that his might was what made him right. Jiro answered that it was not really bothering him, to which Rago said that if that was the case, then he should ignore him and he would just ramble to himself. Honestly, Rago said, he did not think Amagi was truly wrong. He told Jiro to say whatever he wanted and said that in the end, power was still always what won. If the world could move forward using only platitudes and niceties, no one would ever be unhappy. That was how things had worked since before apes evolved into the first humans. But, he added, who Jiro would blow away using the power he had was something each person needed to decide for themselves. Weak or strong, good or evil, enemy or ally, gain or loss. None of it mattered in the end. He told Jiro to sit down and think about it, and if he decided that he still could not let that person or that thing continue, then there would be no reason to hold back. There would be no reason to have regrets. He just needed to unleash everything he had. He added that when Jiro did that, he would be there to help him do it as best as he could. Jiro asked what that was supposed to be, and whether Rago was practicing to become a poet or something, which irritated Rago and made him point out that he had already said he was just talking to himself. After that, both of them fell silent, so quiet that they could hear the wind blowing. Before long, someone arrived and commented that if it was not a pair of slackers just resting and chatting, causing the two of them to turn around. It turned out to be Shiba, together with Asami, Ichika, and Reiji. Shiba said that here he was, extremely busy with all the post-cleanup paperwork and barely sleeping for several days, to which Reiji said that it was not mature of him to take out his frustrations on his subordinates. Asami said that he was actually lucky because he only had to stay at headquarters, while she had been sent all over the place to do so many things that she could no longer remember where she had been yesterday. Ichika then shared her side and told them not to ask her why, but for some reason, she had to stay there with Rorin while taking care of all of his paperwork. Reiji commented that personally, the past few days in the hospital had been good for his rehab, and that all the nurses there had been very kind and attentive, causing Ichika to become irritated and ask what that was supposed to mean, and whether he wanted to swim while fully clothed, to which Shiba said not to bother, because she would only pollute the bay if she threw Reiji into it. Shiba brushed that aside and said that aside from the paperwork, that was pretty much where everything ended. He told them to take the rest of the day and hold a small wrap-up party, saying that they also had Reiji's recovery to celebrate, which made Asami excited and asked if they could really do that, so Shiba said yes. He pointed out that even birds needed to come down from the sky and rest their wings, so that on their next flight, they could reach even higher and farther. Reiji said that honestly, Shiba was just looking for an excuse to slack off, so Shiba asked if he had guessed that. He called Jiro and Rago after that, and asked how long they were going to sit there and just stare. Usami happily told them that it was time for meat, while Shiba invited them to leave. The two of them looked at their group of friends, and before long, they agreed to go with them. And there ended the story of a strange boy with the ability to speak with animals and a legendary cat. Thank you so much for joining this journey. See you next time.